Chapter 3072. Outside the ultimate ruins. Many cultivators held their breaths in concentration while feeling nervous and perturbed in their hearts. They came together this time, hoping to ask Lin soon to calm down the chaos in the world. This was undoubtedly tantamount to completely offending those foreign forces. But they had to do so, because if the chaos continued, not to mention all living beings in the world, even they and the clansmen and forces behind them would suffer one after another. No one could stay out of the world's great disaster. Everyone, now that the Dao Yuan Emperor has returned, with his breadth of mind and boldness, he will definitely not sit idly by. Perhaps all of us have our own selfish motives in coming here. Some are thinking for themselves, some are thinking for the clans behind us, but in the end we're here to plead for the lives of all living beings in the world. Whether we succeed or fail, as long as we do our best, we will have no regrets. A gray-robed old man said in a deep voice. Everyone nearby nodded. They were not sure whether they could ask Lin Sun to help, so they were very nervous. Everyone, have you all noticed? There are quite a number of experts from the other factions staring at us from afar. Someone said in a heavy voice, I'm afraid they hate us to the bone. His words made the faces of everyone present change slightly. So what if we are hated by them? If we old bones don't do these things, who will do it? Even if I die, I won't regret coming here. Someone's voice was sonorous and powerful. Haha, is that so? In that case, I really want to see whether the Dao Yuan Emperor that you all speak of will help you fellows who have no relationship with him. In the distance, a strong foreign force sneered contemptuously. Ask Emperor Dao Yuan to deal with us? Aren't you afraid that the clans behind you will be punished? Someone threatened directly. The world is so big that it's not up to Lin Dao Yuan to decide. Even if he is powerful, can he stop all the forces in the vast thousand world? Words that were filled with coldness, disdain, and threats resounded from afar. The gray-robed old man and others came together in the hope of asking Lin Sun to help. Their expressions changed constantly. They all knew that if they returned without accomplishing anything this time, what awaited them would be a disaster. Do you regret it? Suddenly, someone asked. How can I regret it since I'm here? The gray-robed old man said without thinking. Then, he was stunned. In their field of vision, a tall figure had unknowingly appeared in the sky above the sinkhole, and he was looking at them. I am Zhang Ziheng. Greetings, senior. The gray-robed old man and the others bowed in unison. They could not hide the excitement on their faces. The Dao Yuan Arch had appeared. To them, this was no less than a great surprise. I've heard your conversation earlier, and I already know why you've come. Lin Sun slightly nodded. At the same time, the hearts of all the experts from the outside world who were watching from extremely far away sank, and they didn't dare speak another word. It was even to the extent that they aroused the intention to retreat and intended to retreat. Half a month ago, the scene where Lin Sun wiped out the seven forces with a wave of his sleeves was still spread all over the world. Just at this moment, Lin Sun's eyes swept over them, causing these foreign forces experts to stiffen as if they were being stared at by the ruler of heaven. A chill ran down their spines. The first thing they did was turn around and flee. Back then, I once said that no forces should appear within a 1,000-mile radius of the sinkhole. Yet, you knowingly violated it. Do you think that I'm easy to talk to? An indifferent voice reverberated between heaven and earth. In an instant, the figures of the foreign forces experts were imprisoned in place, unable to move an inch. Lin Dao Yuan, do you really want to fight against the entire vast 1,000 domains by yourself? Someone screamed in horror. I'm not afraid to tell you that the Emperor clans of the various starry dimensions have joined forces to eradicate you. If you know what's good for you, you'd better leave the sinkhole as soon as possible. Otherwise, a great disaster will befall you. Boom. While his voice was still reverberating, the body of this person and all the other foreign forces experts exploded, turning into a mist of blood. Not a single one of them was spared. An ant trying to shake a tree. You overestimate yourself. Lin Sun could not be bothered with them. He looked at Zhang Ziheng and the others again and said, regardless of whether you came here out of selfishness or are really pleading for the lives of the world, I will not stand idly by. Go back and wait for news. As he spoke, he flicked his sleeves. A ray of light descended, wrapping around Zhang Ziheng and the others, directly teleporting them away and disappearing. If they were to leave on their own, it would be difficult for them to leave the soul oblivion sea alive. I can't travel across the starry heavens alone in a short period of time. Lin Sun's heart skipped a beat. Clatter with a shower of light, Wu Shuang, who was as pure as a young girl, appeared out of thin air. Wu Shuang, how about you decide the world on my behalf today? Lin Sun asked. Wu Shuang replied obediently, Wu Shuang, I'll follow your orders. Go. From today onwards, you will be in charge of suppressing any forces that bring harm to the world. As he finished speaking, Lin Sun turned around and returned to the sinkhole. Until Lin Sun's figure disappeared, Wu Shuang took a deep breath and murmured, This is the first time my master has asked me to do something. I must not mess it up. In her watery eyes, a mysterious and unfathomable power of order emerged as she looked into the distance. Swish! Wu Shuang's figure suddenly became illusory, turning into a ray of sacred divine rainbow of order, and then began to spread at an incredible speed. In a few breaths, a mysterious and obscure power of order appeared over the vast soul oblivion sea. It was invisible and intangible, and ordinary practitioners couldn't detect it at all. On the other hand, figures at the Imperial Emperor realm and above acutely sensed at the first possible moment that a completely different fluctuation of order had appeared in the heavens and the earth. It was vast like the heavens and possessed supreme might. In an area of the soul oblivion sea, there were two groups of foreign forces fighting for the ownership of that area of the sea. Both sides had mobilized forces at the level of Zhu Xian Emperor Ancestor, and there were hundreds of them. But at this moment, a horrible light of catastrophe fell from the sky, dazzling and blazing, illuminating the sky and sea. Boom! The light of catastrophe fell, and the two groups of foreign forces were all killed. At the same time, living beings scattered in different areas of the soul oblivion sea, regardless of their cultivation, foreign forces or natives, all sensed a supreme intent spreading out. Today, I represent my master, Lin Sun, to rule the world. From now on, anyone who causes harm to the world will be killed without mercy. This sentence was emotionless, but it resounded in the hearts of every cultivator in the soul oblivion sea, causing their expressions to change. It's the order power released by Lin Daoyuan, and it has spirituality. This is the legendary spirit of order. Only a rare 9th rank heaven rank order can possess it. An immortal from a foreign force gasped, his face full of shock. It seemed like the power of order could kill a heavenly longevity realm existence like him as easily as blowing off dust. Is this a warning to the world that whoever causes trouble will be killed? At this moment, countless foreign forces felt their limbs go cold, and they realized that the situation was not good. Emperor Daoyuan has made his move. Finally, we will no longer be killed by those foreign forces. It was unknown how many natives were cheering at this moment, shouting in excitement. This news was shocking because there was no need for it to be spread. It resounded in the hearts of every cultivator at the same time. Fortunately, as long as the innocent are not harmed, nothing will happen. In this case, there is still room for maneuver. Some experienced people keenly noticed the subtlety in Wu Shuang's words. In other words, they could fight and kill, but they could not harm and implicate the innocent. The only thing that people could not grasp was what exactly meant by innocent. Where was the standard of innocent? This was very mysterious, but the more it was so, the more people did not dare to act rashly. Because once a battle broke out, no one could say for sure whether they would be killed or not. Rise! In the sky, Wushuang's power continued to spreading to the Xiao Empire, the ancient Desolation region, the Starry Sky Ancient Path, and the 9 galaxies Xiao Empire, Primeval Tao Mountain. This was originally the place where the Primeval Tao sect resided. However, after the sect moved to the bottomless ruins many years ago, it became an ownerless land. Even though there were many cultivator forces in the Xiao Empire, the power of the Primeval Tao sect had long been deeply rooted in the hearts of the people, so no one dared to occupy it. However, ever since the bottomless ruins changed, the Primeval Tao Mountain became a place of chaos. Many foreign forces came and fought over it, causing countless bloody battles. Today, the Primeval Tao Mountain once again witnessed a shocking battle. When the battle ended, the place was covered in corpses and blood like a painting. From today onwards, this place will be under the control of my celestial water paradise. On the victor's side, an undying figure laughed proudly at the sky. Boom! However, in the next moment, a waterfall of tribulation light descended from the sky, killing this undying figure on the spot and turning him into dust. The experts under him were also scared out of their wit. Ancient Desolation region. The shocking changes in the ultimate ruin had made this vast world different from before. It was like a sacred pure land that was full of vitality. Naturally, there were many invading forces from the outside. However, on this day, Wushuang's emotionless voice rang out in the hearts of all cultivators in the ancient Desolation region. Today, I will rule the world on behalf of my master, Lin Sun. From today onwards, anyone who causes harm to the world will be killed without mercy. For a time, it caused a huge uproar. And in the major starry sky regions of the Starry Sky Ancient Path, similar scenes played out continuously. The major forces that invaded from the various starry sky regions of the vast thousand worlds all felt great pressure. They were both shocked and angry and filled with fear. Someone didn't believe it and sneered at the sky. I want to see what this power of order can do to me. His voice was domineering. But in the next moment, he let out a miserable scream. His cultivation, which was at the peak of the monarch ancestor realm, was reduced to ashes by the tribulation light. In the following period of time, such scenes continued to play out. The people of this world were all in defiance of the heavens. How could they possibly submit to a single decree? However, when they tried to resist, they were all killed by the tribulation light in the sky without exception. Later on, all the cultivators in the starry sky finally deeply felt the terror of the power of order that enveloped the sky. Chapter 3073. The World of Darkness. Qing, dressed in a green dress, raised her head and looked at the sky. Previously, she had heard Wushuang's voice in her heart. She was amazed in her heart and a smile appeared on her lips. Just like in the past, Qing had an extremely enchanting beauty. Holding a blood umbrella, her fair and translucent skin was like mutton fat jade. Her facial features were exquisite and beautiful, and her neck was snow white and slender. Standing there casually, she had a charm that could turn all living things upside down. Big Yellow, where are you going? At the spur of the moment, the Qing noticed that Big Yellow was rushing toward the sky impatiently. I'm going to look for Lin Sun. He must have seen Master long ago. Once we find him, we can understand Master's situation. Big Yellow shouted excitedly. Wait, I'll go with you, Qing said, and had already leaped into the air to chase after Big Yellow. Outside the starry ancient path, the figures of cultivators converged like tidewater in an expanse of the starry sky. These were the strong cultivators from the various starry planes of the vast thousand world. They had united and formed an army that could sweep the world. There were more than 30 immortal figures. Half a month ago, Lin Sun had returned and wiped out the 7 major forces outside the ultimate. When the news came out, the whole vast thousand world was in an uproar. And this mighty army of cultivators had come to deal with Lin Sun. However, at this moment they all stopped in their tracks. Their expressions changed and the atmosphere was extremely depressing. Previously, Wu Shuang's emotionless voice reverberated in the hearts of everyone in this army of cultivators, making them feel that something was wrong. From now on, restrain your aura. Don't make a move on your own. Once you encounter a battle, don't hurt the innocent. The black-robed man in the lead took a deep breath and gave the order. His words made everyone shiver and they couldn't help but feel aggrieved. Originally, to these foreign forces, the starry ancient path was a piece of fat meat that could be slaughtered at any time. However, with Lin Sun's return and the mysterious and terrifying power of order covering the starry sky, they had no choice but to restrain and lower their heads. Brother, is this power of order really impossible to resist? An elder couldn't help but ask. Everyone, you must have heard the voice just now. That's a power that only an order spirit can possess. It's even more terrifying than a heaven-rank 9 order spirit. The black-robed man in the lead said in a low voice, and there was extreme wariness in his tone. Forget about the boundless universe, even in the eternal true world, only the immortal giants of the 8th heaven can possess such a mysterious power. Undying? Many people's hearts trembled and they gasped. We might be able to proclaim ourselves as kings and tyrants in the great 1,000 worlds and do whatever we want without fear, but if we go to eternal true world, we're nothing. In the eyes of those immortal giants, we're no different from ants. The black-robed man's voice was slow and heavy. Now that Lin Daoyuan has returned with the spirit of order, it's not an exaggeration to say that he can easily suppress any starry sky plane in the great 1,000 world with just the spirit of order. His words caused the hearts of the allied forces from the various dimensions to plunge to rock bottom, and their hairs stood on end. Lin Daoyuan. How could it be so terrifying? Fellow Daoist, if that's the case, wouldn't our trip to the sinkhole be no different from suicide? Someone could not help but ask. Not necessarily. The black-robed man's eyes flashed. Just now, the spirit of orders will said very clearly that it's not allowed to harm the lives of all living beings in the world, but it didn't say anything about stopping us from entering the ancient path of stars. Hearing this, the eyes of many old people lit up, and they also understood what was going on. As long as we cooperate and don't anger the spirit of order, it's not impossible for us to take root in the ancient path of stars. The black-robed man said, Everyone, you have to look at the long term. The shocking change in the sinkhole of stars will cause the entire ancient path of stars to undergo a drastic change. Even if we can't enter the sinkhole of stars in the end, as long as we can take root in the ancient path of stars, we'll definitely be able to obtain unimaginable benefits in the future. Many people, who were originally depressed, became excited. Someone showed a look of longing. That's right, a terrifying existence like Lin Daoyuan will definitely not stay in the ancient path of stars for long. In the future, no one will have the final say in the world. In just a few days, as the peerless power of order covered the entire ancient path of stars, the chaos and slaughter in the world seemed to have been wiped out. Even those hostile forces chose to swallow their anger and take a step back. They no longer dared to kill recklessly. For a time, the entire world showed a scene of peace and harmony. It was far from what it used to be. Such a change was naturally noticed by the billions of people in the world, and all of them cheered and rejoiced. Since ancient times, who could be like the Daoyuan Emperor, who could single-handedly suppress the chaos in the world and return peace to the world? The billions of people in the ancient path of stars should be grateful for the Daoyuan Emperor's kindness. If not for the Daoyuan Emperor, the ancient path of stars would have fallen, and the people of this world would definitely not be able to stay out of it. The entire world was discussing the same name, Lin Sun. In the entire history of the ancient path of stars, there had never been someone like Lin Sun, who single-handedly determined the Tao of the world and cleansed the heavens. There had never been a legendary figure like Lin Sun, who could make all the forces in the vast 1,000 world bow their heads and submit. Ancient Desolation, Divine Secret Pavilion. The Divine Secret Pavilion was regarded as the sword and brush officials of the cultivation world. They controlled the spring and autumn brush and the Book of Annals. They recorded the historical facts of the past and the changes of the world. Anyone who could be recorded by them would have their names immortalized in history. A long time ago, when Lin Sun was wandering in the ancient desolation, his shocking deeds had been recorded by Miao Xian of the Divine Secret Pavilion. And today, Miao Xian took out the spring and autumn brush and the Book of Annals again and wrote seriously. After many years, Lin Daoyuan returned to the ancient path of stars with supreme power and swept away the disaster of the ultimate. He used the power of order to determine the Tao of the world, and no one in the world dared to disobey him. All living beings in the world praise his prestige and regard him as the ruler of the heavens. No one dares to disrespect him. Throughout history, there is no one who can compare to him. The ultimate. The secret world of hearts. Miss Qingying, you came at the right time. When I have investigated the shocking changes in the ultimate, you can come with me to the eternal world. In a hall of the primeval Tao sect, Lin Sun said with a smile. Today, Lin Sun was quite happy that Qingying and Big Yellow came together. Before Qingying could speak, Big Yellow said anxiously, "We'll talk about whether we go to the eternal world later. Tell me about my master now." Lin Sun rubbed Big Yellow's head and said, "Good boy, don't be anxious." Big Yellow bared its teeth in anger and opened its mouth to bite Lin Sun's thigh, but Lin Sun dodged it. "Brat, do you think that you can be lawless just because your cultivation is higher than mine?" Big Yellow howled and pounced at Lin Sun again. Lin Sun hurriedly waved his hand. All right, I'll tell you." Only then did Big Yellow stop and squatted on the ground while snorting. Lin Sun did not hide anything and told it about meeting second senior brother Zhong Qiu in the eternal world. After hearing that, Big Yellow stood up and said, "I want to go to Kunlun ruins." Lin Sun hurriedly said, "That place is now a place of great danger. It's too dangerous to gather at the eternal realm. If you really want to see my second senior brother, just follow me." Big Yellow's expression was gloomy. Qingying also said from the side, "Big Yellow, you should stay." Big Yellow said with a lonely expression, "Am I becoming more and more useless?" "I can't even help Master," Lin Sun said seriously. "You're wrong to say that. Your master is my second senior brother. I'm more worried about his safety than you are. If you really want to help him, just cultivate hard." Big Yellow was silent for a moment before nodding. Lin Sun and Qingying immediately heaved a sigh of relief. They were really worried that Big Yellow would go to Kunlun ruins at all costs. If that was the case, it would be too easy for accidents to happen. "Miss Qingying, Master Lu is also in the eternal world. When I leave, why don't you and Big Yellow leave with me?" Lin Sun looked at Qingying. "All right," Qingying agreed readily. On this day, Lin Sun settled Qingying and Big Yellow in the secret world of Kor. It was also on this day that Xian Zhuyin and Jintian Xianyue returned. Along with them were all the members of the Xian family. That night, Lin Sun held a grand banquet and warmly received the patriarch of the Xian family, Xian Shangchen, and the other important figures of the Xian family. Back then, if Xian Shangchen had not sent the news in advance and asked the Lin family to move to the ultimate, the Lin family would have been destroyed by the forces sent by Fu Wenli and the others. This was a great favor that Lin Sun would never dare to forget. Lin Sun also settled down the entire Xian family. When it was time to leave, he would bring them to the eternal world. "Husband, I plan to make a trip to the true dragon bloodline." On this day, Zhao Jingxian found Lin Sun and told him her plan softly. Her parents, Zhao Yuanji and Ao Xintong, were both from the true dragon bloodline. After learning that Lin Sun was investigating the secrets of the ultimate, he would leave with everyone in the secret world of Kor. Zhao Jingxian also planned to bring her parents away. "I'll go with you." Lin Sun agreed after some thought. The main reason he returned to the ancient path of starry sky this time was to bring all his friends and relatives away. Now that he had reunited with them, he did not mind staying for a while longer. In particular, the shocking changes in the ultimate piqued his curiosity. If it were not for the fact that he had too many things to do recently, he would have gone to the depths of the ultimate. Zhao Jingxian pursed her lips and smiled. You are a busy person now. You should stay here. Xie Zhi has already agreed to come with me. Lin Sun could not help but look at Xie Zhi in surprise. This was the first time he saw Xie Zhi agree to do such a thing on her own initiative. I can't ignore Sister Jingxian's matter. Xie Zhi's voice was crisp and sweet. Lin Sun was immediately gratified. It was really not easy for Xie Zhi to have such a change in temperament. In the past, apart from himself, Xie Zhi did not care about anyone else in this world. Chapter 3074. Zhao Jingxian and Xie Zhi left together. With Xie Zhi around, Lin Sun wasn't worried. After all, Xie Zhi could kill a transcendent realm great perfection with her current combat strength. She also mastered a forbidden technique related to fate, the mortal calamity. There was no one in the boundless thousand battles who could match up to her. Father! Lin Fan hurriedly came looking for Zhao Jingxian and Xie Zhi right after they left. Are you truly invincible in this realm now? Asked Lin Sun with a smile. Lin Fan had been following Lin Sun's instructions these past few days. He had been fighting against the Seven Forces' great ancestor Zhu Ying to temper himself and improve greatly. Soon. Lin Fan smiled. This time around, I didn't ask you to test my cultivation skills. I have something else to tell you, Father. His temperament was like the cool breeze under a pine tree or the bright moon in a mountain stream. He was handsome and outstanding. Even when conversing with Lin Sun, he had a calm demeanor. What is it? Asked Lin Sun. Come with me, Father. With that, he flew towards the core ruins. Along the way, a beautiful figure suddenly appeared from afar. Before she even arrived, a sweet voice could already be heard. Brother Fan, I finally get to see you. She was looking for Lin Fan. At first glance, Lin Sun recognized that it was Shi Yu's daughter, Shi Linlang, a bright and beautiful woman. Why are you looking for me? Asked Lin Fan. Shi Linlang didn't answer. Instead, she greeted Lin Sun with a sweet smile. Uncle Lin. Lin Sun glanced at her and Lin Fan, vaguely guessing what was going on. He couldn't help but smile. You guys chat, I'll go somewhere else. With that, he flew away with his hands behind his back. That's right. Fan is already old enough to marry a cultivation companion, thought Lin Sun. Shi Linlang was Shi Yu's daughter, and he and Shi Yu were good friends since they were young. If Lin Fan could marry Shi Linlang, it would naturally be a great thing. Of course, this also depended on whether Lin Fan and Shi Linlang were compatible. Not long after, Lin Fan returned with a smile. Father, let's go. Lin Sun glanced at Shi Linlang's departing figure, but didn't ask anything in the end. Lin Fan should be the one to decide. The core ruins. Under Lin Fan's lead, they soon arrived at the depths of an underground cave. This place had obviously been abandoned for a long time, but now it was filled with an extremely astonishing aura of the Great Path, and there were faint sounds of the Tao coming from it. Did this place appear recently? Asked Lin Sun. Lin Fan said, It only appeared yesterday. It should have something to do with that shocking change in the sinkhole. I've already entered it to investigate and found out that this cave abode is related to the Lord of Fangsuan Mountain. Lin Sun narrowed his eyes and quickened his pace. It didn't take long for them to arrive at the end of the abode. It was a spacious world, and there was only a meditation cushion placed there. Besides that, there was nothing else. In an instant, Lin Sun's eyes fell on the futon. Father, this praying mat is extremely mysterious. Even with my current cultivation, I am actually unable to approach or touch it, unable to even sense it with my divine senses. Lin Fan said. Lin Sun spread his spiritual awareness and immediately sensed a different breath. There was an obscure forbidden power surging on the futon. With his current cultivation, it was difficult for him to get close to it. However, the power of the restriction gave Lin Sun an extremely familiar feeling. With a thought, he operated the power of the Battle Saint technique and probed the futon. Whoosh! The futon suddenly glowed, releasing a magnificent light rain of the Great Path. At the same time, Lin Sun came to a realization. It turned out that this underground cave abode was personally opened by the Lord of Fangtsuan Mountain. At that time, fourth senior brother Ling Xuanzi was suppressed here. Moreover, the Lord of Fangtsuan Mountain had left the imprints of the 9 major sects in the futon. Of course, it was also left for fourth senior brother. Unfortunately, fourth senior brother was filled with resentment at that time and did not understand the intention of the Lord of Fangtsuan Mountain to suppress him. During the countless years that he was trapped here, he did not comprehend and learn the mystery of the 9 major sections. Knowing this, Lin Sun could not help but sigh in his heart. Fortunately, fourth senior brother had turned over a new leaf. Otherwise, with his ability, if he brought disaster to the world, the consequences would be unimaginable. Father, what secret is hidden in this futon? Lin Fan could not help but ask. Lin Sun said, "Wait for a moment." As he spoke, he stepped forward and sat cross-legged on the futon. With a little sense, the 9 major sects sealed in the futon emerged in his mind. In the past, Lin Sun had heard his senior brothers and sisters talking about these sections. But apart from the fighting saint technique, Lin Sun did not know the mysteries of the other sections. But now, the mysteries of these sects emerged one by one. They were Battle Saint Technique, Premier Heart Sutra, Confinement of Mental Space, Floating Sutra, Boundless Distance, Free and Unfettered, Boundless Voyager, Knowledge Sutra. Each of the 9 major sects of Fangtsuan Mountain was personally created by the Lord of Fangtsuan Mountain and possessed unfathomable power. For example, 9th Senior Brother Guyupu's Golden Court Sutra was born out of the inheritance of Free and Unfettered Sutra. When this inheritance was cultivated to the extreme, it could transform one's body into all things in the world, including the sky, the earth, all things in the world, and all living beings in the world. For example, Knowledge Sutra was based on the meaning of understanding things and gaining knowledge. It could identify all things and gain insight into the mysteries. Senior Brother Pujin's All Herbs Sutra was born out of this sutra. After a long time, Lin Sun opened his eyes. He had already understood the mysteries of the 9 major sections. Although they are sects, the mysteries in them can only be cultivated before the Emperor realm. Obviously, Master is worried that the Taoist scriptures he created will affect the future cultivation of his heirs. Lin Sun was very clear that after stepping into the Emperor realm, he began to walk on his own path of cultivation. Master of Fangtsuan had done this with good intentions. As the saying goes, the master leads the way, but the cultivation depends on the individual. Before reaching the Emperor realm, one could still study the sect's inheritance. But once he stepped into the Emperor realm, he could only rely on himself to seek the Tao. Because if one wanted to go further in this realm, he needed to create his own Emperor Sutra. For example, when Lin Sun was in the Emperor realm, he created the Great Way Furnace Sutra. This meditation cushion contains the 9 ultimate inheritances of Mount Innerheart. You can comprehend it for a while and take it as a reference to learn. Lin Sun got up from the futon and said casually. Lin Fan thought for a moment and suddenly smiled. Forget it. I also know the principle of drawing inferences from one case, but I have already reached the extreme of the Emperor realm. Any inheritance in this world is of no use to me. Lin Sun raised his eyebrows and didn't insist. He said, Since you are so confident in your Tao, why don't we have a match? Lin Fan was stunned. Father, you are bullying me. Lin Sun said, Don't worry. I will only fight you with the power of Zhu Xing ancestor. Lin Fan's fighting spirit was also aroused. He said with his eyes shining, "Father, I have long heard that your Tao is unparalleled in the world. I really want to see it." Lin soon glanced at him and said, "Let's go." After a moment, father and son stood in the air above the Fengtsuan ruins, facing each other. "Father, please." Lin Fan took a deep breath. His handsome face showed a disdainful expression. His qi ran and his momentum suddenly changed. There was a kind of domineering aura. "Come." Lin Sun suppressed his cultivation to Ju Xing ancestor level. He looked calm. "Father, then I won't be polite." In the midst of his laughter, Lin Fan broke through the air and arrived. His eyes were filled with a strong desire to fight. With his current cultivation, he didn't care about people in the same realm as him. There were very few people in this world who could arouse his fighting spirit. But facing his father, Lin Sun, was completely different. Since he was a child, his father was like an unattainable mountain in his heart. Even now, Lin Fan still admired his father. However, admiration was one thing. Lin Fan always thought that one day he would catch up with his father's footsteps and stand shoulder to shoulder with him on the Tao, until he surpassed him. Just like now, Lin Fan was confident that even if he couldn't defeat his father in the Ju Xing ancestor level, he could still win. However, reality was cruel after all. In just a moment, Lin Fan was hit by a punch. He staggered, his face full of shock. Lin Sun looked at Lin Sun in the distance. "Do you want to continue?" Lin Sun asked. In other words, Lin Sun was saying, "You're still not good enough." Again, Lin Fan's expression became calm and serious, and his entire aura faintly showed signs of boiling. Bang! Not long after, Lin Fan was slapped into the air and hit the ground. His handsome face was covered with dust. He looked quite embarrassed. He got up and said in disbelief, "Is this the power of Ju Xing ancestor?" Lin Sun smiled. "I don't need to use the power of a mortal level to deal with you." Lin Fan's lips twitched. He gritted his teeth, again. Bang! 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 In the following time, Lin Fan was defeated again and again. Every time he was embarrassed, but he didn't get hurt. Lin Sun didn't want to hurt his son. As long as he could kill this kid's arrogance and temper his state of mind, his goal would be achieved. After a long time, Lin Fan's hair was disheveled and he was covered in dust. He stood there panting, his expression uncertain. "Not again?" Lin Sun asked. Lin Fan smiled bitterly. "Father, I'm not a masochist. It would be stupid of me to do something I know I can't do. Little Fan, your power and fighting skills are flawed, but it doesn't affect you much. In the end, it's because you lack the real tempering of life and death. You lack the power that comes from blood." Lin Sun walked forward and handed a pot of wine to Lin Fan. He then patiently taught him, "Only those who are used to life and death know how to dig out their true potential and limit. This is the ultimate secret of tempering oneself. Others' guidance and teaching are far inferior to personal experience." After a pause, he said, "In short, it's nothing more than one sentence." Lin Fan couldn't help but ask, "What?" "You need to be taught a lesson." These 3 words were like an invincible sharp sword that pierced through the pride in Lin Fan's heart. P.S. Thank you, brother, Awadara, for another reward from the leader. Thank you very much. Let's take this opportunity to talk about tomorrow's outbreak. Tomorrow morning at around 10 o'clock, there will be 3 chapters in a row. Before 6 o'clock, I will try to do another 3 chapters in a row. Later updates will be announced in the chapter. Chapter 3075. Lin Fan had never met anyone in the same realm as him since he started cultivating. This had given him a sense of disdain. After today's defeat, it was as if he had just woken up from a dream. His entire state of mind had changed. After being in a daze for a long time, Lin Fan revealed a look of shame. He bowed and said, "Thank you, father, for enlightening me now." Lin Sun said, "Fan, are you willing to undergo samsara cultivation?" Lin Fan was stunned. Father, what do you mean? Lin Sun told his father about how he had entered the samsara world of nirvana to undergo recultivation. Lin Fan's eyes lit up. Is there such a thing in this world? Lin Sun smiled. If you are willing, you can enter now. He controlled the nirvana order and the samsara world was within it. He could send Lin Fan in at any time. I am willing. Lin Fan agreed without hesitation. Lin Sun immediately acted and sent Lin Fan into the nirvana order's samsara world. It's time to go to the depths of the ultimate. Lin Sun made up his mind as he strolled in the secret world of Kor. Soon, he found Xian Juin, Jintian Xianyue, Old Toad, Alu, and the others. He told them of his decision and instructed them to guard the secret world of Kor. Then, Lin Sun left the secret world of Kor on the same day. The ultimate was one of the 4 ruins of Tao. Legend had it that every river in the universe, including the water of the Milky Way in the depths of the universe, would converge in the mysterious and primitive ultimate. When Lin Sun was young, he had heard that in the earliest times, the ultimate was surrounded by 5 divine mountains. They were Yingzhou, Penglai, Fanghu, Daiyu, and Yuanjiao. Each divine mountain was 15,000 miles above and below, with a distance of 70,000 feet between them. They were connected to the sea of stars above and the 9 serenities below. They were mysterious and unfathomable. But now Lin Sun knew that as the power of the ultimate dried up in the beginning of the primordial era, everything in the ultimate changed. At the very least, the 5 legendary divine mountains had long disappeared. The secret world of Kor wasn't the only place in the ultimate. There were many other secret realms that Lin Sun had never explored in the past. And following the shocking changes that occurred in the sinkhole in recent years, the depths of the sinkhole were completely drowned by violent fluctuations of vitality. No one could approach it anymore. But the more it was so, the more curious Lin Sun was. Even now, he still had a deep impression of the divine sword that was filled with an eternal aura and had the word, darkness extinction, carved on its hilt. That was definitely a sword that belonged to an eternal realm expert. It was a true eternal Tao weapon. Even though it was severely damaged, it still exuded an eternal aura. And this sword had emerged from the depths of the ultimate. Whoosh! Lin Sun's figure flickered as he headed straight for the depths of the ultimate. Along the way, surging waves of vitality surged out like waves, emitting a primitive and ancient aura that was incomparably shocking. It was this vitality that changed the power of the ancient path of the starry sky, giving off an unprecedented aura of the great Tao. However, when one walked through it and was attacked by the life force, it was incomparably dangerous. It was no wonder that Old Toad and Alu had returned empty-handed back then. This kind of vitality fluctuation could easily crush a soul emperor, and the deeper one went, the more violent and dangerous it would be. In the end, even Lin Sun had to run his cultivation to resist and resolve it. Along the way, Lin Sun also saw many secret realms. He once entered them to investigate, but apart from some treasures such as divine medicine and divine materials, there was nothing that attracted Lin Sun. Along the way, Lin Sun also saw many secret realms. In fact, with his current realm, it was difficult for treasures below the immortal realm to catch his eye. Just like this, he walked forward for a full 30 minutes. Boom! Amidst the violent and surging torrent of vitality, a ghastly pale hand suddenly stretched out. Its fingers were bare as if they were polished from jade, and every single knuckle surged with an eternal aura that caused one's heart to palpitate. The hand swept out, releasing a ferocious and terrifying violent aura, and suddenly grabbed at Lin Sun. At that moment, Lin Sun couldn't help but feel creeped out and subconsciously tried his best to resist it. Because there was no way to dodge. Bang! As if he had suffered a heavy blow, Lin Sun staggered and flew backward, with a touch of surprise and doubt on his face. With his current cultivation, he could suppress the Dharma form of the eternal realm, but now, he was repelled by the hand full of eternal aura. Whoosh! Before Lin Sun could react, the 5 fingers of the hand suddenly opened, like 5 peerlessly sharp divine swords, setting off a dark eternal sword chi, and chopped at Lin Sun. This blow was more terrible than before. Lin Sun dodged it with all his strength without thinking. Boom! The void nearby collapsed and became chaotic. The black eternal sword chi was too powerful. Although Lin Sun avoided it, he was swept by the unparalleled power. Whoosh! Whoosh! Horrifying sword marks appeared on his body that could be said to be indestructible, and blood splattered everywhere. How can it be so powerful? Is the owner of this hand a real eternal existence? At this moment, Lin Sun felt greatly threatened. In these years, he didn't even meet a few decent opponents, let alone being injured. But at this time, he was injured by a hand, which made Lin Sun feel unreal. Whoosh! The ghastly pale hand bone that was coiled with the aura of eternity attacked once more. Every single strike that descended caused sword insight that was black like the eternal night to seethe and spread out, and it was fierce and overbearing. It seemed like the eternal veil of night had descended and intended to swallow everything. Even though Lin Sun dodged with all his strength, he was still in danger, and the sword wounds on his body gradually increased. Although they were not fatal, they made him look extremely miserable. I can't delay any longer. Lin Sun's face was gloomy. When the hand came again, he did not hesitate to use the Gate of Exile. Boom! In the blink of an eye, the pale white hand bone and the black eternal sword intent it released disappeared into the door of exile. It was unexpectedly easy. Yes, this hand has no intelligence. Although its power is terrifying, it doesn't know the mystery of the Gate of Exile at all. Naturally, it fell into the trap easily. Lin Sun let out a long breath, and then felt it was too wasteful. It only took a moment to use 30% of his power to use the Gate of Exile. Let's take this opportunity to see what the hell the hand is. Lin Sun thought of something and directly shrunk the Gate of Exile into a shadow, which could last for a full hour. Then he directly rushed into the world of exile. The familiar gray world came into Lin Sun's sight. His figure flickered and moved to the distance. Soon, he came to the area where the corpse-killing disc was located. Boom! 2 huge millstone-like discs, one black and one white, were squeezing and rotating each other, producing a dull roar that resounded between heaven and earth. Lin Sun suddenly stopped and his eyes slightly narrowed. Within the black and white divine disc that was pressing against each other, the pale hand was being crushed bit by bit. It was like rice grains falling into a millstone, producing cracking sounds. Under Lin Sun's gaze, the pale hand was completely crushed and obliterated, but a wisp of black power of the Great Way remained, as deep and quiet as the night. This surprised Lin Sun greatly. The corpse-killing disc was transformed from the obliteration rules. It was a kind of rule of heaven and earth, and it was enough to completely obliterate the power of any strong man. This was the first time he had seen a power that could not be completely obliterated by the obliteration rules. Lin Sun immediately grabbed the black power of the Great Way across the air. After a brief look, he could not help but be moved. This was an extremely powerful and pure eternal rules, containing incomparably powerful sword essence. The power was so powerful that even he felt a strong sense of danger. The eternal rules are no different from the real rule. The reason why this black eternal power has not been completely refined is that it is at the same level as the obliteration rules, so it can be preserved, Lin Sun suddenly understood. After the rule of heaven and earth was controlled and refined by the eternal realm, it became their own eternal rules. Just like the power contained in the divine order, it was also comparable to the power of rule, and belonged to the same level of power. The hand was so powerful just now, obviously because of the power of the black eternal rules. I wonder what will happen if I completely refine it, Lin Sun pondered. If it were any other cultivator, they probably would not even dare to try to refine this black eternal rules. But for Lin Sun, it was not a difficult task. This was because his immortal rules were different from those of the same realm in the world. After absorbing 90% of the Nirvana Order's power, it was no longer inferior to the Divine Order. Naturally, it could compete with the power of rule. After a while, a hint of determination flashed in Lin Sun's eyes. He took a deep breath and sat cross-legged in the void. He operated his own Tao and began to try to refine this black eternal rules with the immortal rules. Boom! The black eternal rules produced a shockingly violent fluctuation, but it was soon enveloped by Lin Sun's immortal rules. Without any accidents, the black eternal rules began to be refined bit by bit. Just half a quarter of an hour later, the black eternal rules were completely refined. At the same time, Lin Sun keenly sensed that the power of his immortal rules had undergone some subtle changes. Although the changes were extremely subtle, Lin Sun was extremely shocked. It should be known that when he was in the Yuan Church, he had refined many rare ninth-grade heaven-level orders, and he had also refined the Nirvana order to 90%. He thought that he had already tempered his immortal rules to the extreme. But now there were some changes again, which was completely beyond Lin Sun's expectations. It was not until he calmed down that he vaguely guessed the mystery. The eternal rules are the power of rule. The divine order also contains the power of rule. Now that I've refined this black eternal rules, it should be equivalent to refining a divine order. Does this mean that all the heaven rank order's power has no effect on me? As long as I can absorb and refine the God rank order, my immortal law will continue transforming? Thinking of this, Lin Sun could not help but be stunned. If this was the case, did it mean that he had not truly tempered the immortal rules to the extreme in the transcendent realm great perfection? If this was the case, how could he talk about achieving eternity? Fortunately, I haven't tried to break through to the eternal realm. Otherwise, the flaws in my immortal rules would be enough to make me encounter great difficulties when breaking through the realm. Lin Sun secretly felt lucky. Chapter 3076. In the past, Lin Sun had never thought of refining a divine-level order, because this kind of power was too precious and rare. In the eternal world, even in the ninth heaven, only the 12 eternal gods possessed it. Now, he also had a divine-level Grand Prime, but he had never thought of refining it. As a result, Lin Sun had never thought that his immortal rule could actually produce subtle changes when refining the power of a divine-level order. Although the black eternal rule from before was left by an eternal realm figure, it could also be called a divine-level order. It was just a badly damaged small piece. The shocking change that occurred in the depths of the ultimate clearly has more than one treasure related to the power of the eternal realm. If I can collect enough similar eternal rule on this trip, perhaps it will be enough to truly refine my immortal rule to an unprecedented level. At that time, breaking into the eternal realm will no longer have any flaws. Although this is dangerous, as long as I have the Gate of Exile, I can easily collect them. While thinking, Lin Sun got up and rushed out of the exile realm. Swoosh! Soon, his figure reappeared in the ultimate. Looking at the power of the Gate of Exile, Lin Sun saw that it could still last for a while. With a thought, the Gate of Exile, which was originally like a shadow of light, suddenly expanded to a radius of 3 feet. Then, he rushed directly into the depths of the ultimate. The violent and turbulent life force was so terrifying that Lin Sun had to use his true strength to move forward. But now that he had the Gate of Exile, he saw that the violent waves of life force rushing towards him were constantly swallowed by the Gate of Exile. This made Lin Sun feel extremely relaxed, and his speed of moving forward became extremely fast. At this moment, it was like a bottomless pit had appeared in front of him. No matter how many violent waves of life force rushed towards him, they would all be swallowed by the Gate of Exile. How could his speed of moving forward be slow? Kill! Not long after, an earth-shattering sound of fighting suddenly rang out, causing Lin Sun's heart to tremble. He saw that in the depths of the violent waves of life force that were as vast as the ocean, a broken corpse rushed out. The corpse was clearly cut in half at the waist, leaving only the upper body. Moreover, there was no head, only half of the upper body and 2 arms, dripping with blood. However, this corpse was suffused with a terrifying and boundless eternal light of the Tao, and it was filled with killing intent. Just this aura alone could shatter any eternal realm immortal into pieces. In fact, at the first sight of the corpse, Lin Sun felt a fatal threat. He had no doubt that if he fought recklessly, he was doomed to die with his current cultivation. But now Lin Sun looked at the gate of exile in front of him, gritted his teeth, and directly rushed towards the hideous corpse. Kill! The blood-stained corpse charged at Lin Sun. It swung its arms, causing the sky to fall and the earth to crack. Even the void seemed to explode. The cyan divine flame turned into a wheel and charged at Lin Sun. Lin Sun's mind shook violently. Every inch of his skin was stinging. The strong sense of danger stimulated him to the point of suffocation. He was simply too strong. In comparison, the Eternal Realm's Dharma idol was simply not worth mentioning. Boom! Lin Sun did not flinch. He pushed forward against the gate of exile. With an earth-shattering roar, the cyan divine flame and the blood-stained corpse were directly swallowed up. Almost at the same time, the banished gate exploded into a rain of light that scattered everywhere. Even Lin Sun's figure staggered. The shock made his blood boil, and he almost coughed up blood. This corpse has been dead for countless years. It doesn't even have intelligence or consciousness, but it can still release such terrifying power. Is this the power of the real Eternal Realm? Lin Sun's expression changed, and his eyes were filled with fear. Of course, he had seen existences of the Eternal Realm, and he had seen the glory of such existences in battle. But he had never fought against such existences himself. But now, as he fought against the pale skeletal hand and the blood-stained corpse, Lin Sun deeply realized how powerful the power of the Eternal Realm was. No matter how heaven-defying his combat power was, he could not fight against it. Fortunately, he had the Gate of Exile. Otherwise, he would have long turned around and fled from the depths of the dangerous ultimate. Lin Sun let out a long breath, then gritted his teeth and used the Gate of Exile again. This time, he did not rush to the Gate of Exile to investigate the power of the eternal law left behind by the blood-stained corpse. Instead, he continued moving forward. Once he had collected enough prey, he would refine them all in one go. As he went deeper, Lin Sun once again encountered some strange, ferocious creatures. There were severely damaged Eternal Tao fragments, blood-stained torn clothes, broken armor riddled with holes, all of them were filled with the aura of Eternal. Unfortunately, these items had been lost for countless years, and their spirituality had long been obliterated. They were so badly damaged that they were of no use at all. In addition to these, Lin Sun also encountered some broken limbs left behind by Eternal Realm figures. There was a skull with a hole between the eyebrows. The face was festering and corroding, making it look extremely hideous. There were also blood-stained eyes, badly worn skulls, and so on. None of them were complete. Lin Sun felt as if there had been a battle between Eternal Realm experts under the ultimate, leaving behind countless broken limbs. It was chilling to even think about it. Of course, the broken limbs left behind by these Eternal Realm figures were all collected by Lin Sun into the Gate of Exile. When the power of the Gate of Exile was exhausted again, Lin Sun had collected 9 kinds of similar prey. I can't go any further. I have to recover. Lin Sun stopped. He only had about 30% of his cultivation left. If he used the Gate of Exile again, he would be completely exhausted. Clatter this time, Lin Sun used the Seal of Time to condense a forbidden formation in the violent fluctuation of vitality. Then, he sat cross-legged on the ground, took out many elixirs and began to meditate. Boom! The surging power of vitality was extremely astonishing. It kept gushing out from the depths, and when it rushed over, it caused the Seal of Time to shake. Originally, the power of the Seal of Time was enough to last for half a month. But now, it could only last about 3 days at most. But this was enough for Lin Sun. He was now extremely rich, and he had no shortage of rare elixirs to recover his strength. In just half a day, his cultivation was restored to its peak state. It's a pity that I can't use 2 innate powers at the same time. Otherwise, there will be a great conflict, Lin Sun sighed in his heart. If he could use the Gate of Exile, he could take advantage of this opportunity to collect the eternal laws left behind by the divine disk of Corpse Executioner and refine them in the Seal of Time. But it was obvious that this was impossible. Although he was a little reluctant, Lin Sun could only withdraw the power of the Seal of Time, and then he used the Gate of Exile again and continued to move forward. He decided to keep moving forward until he collected enough prey, and then he decided to refine the eternal laws left behind by those prey. In this way, Lin Sun continued to move forward. When the power of the Gate of Exile was exhausted, he continued to use it, and when his physical strength was about to be exhausted, he immediately stopped and condensed the Seal of Time to restore his physical strength. It was like a cycle, repeating in order. Along the way, he saw more and more broken things filled with the aura of Eternal Realm, but he ignored them all. He concentrated on collecting the broken limbs left behind by the Eternal Realm figures. His harvest was not small. In just a day, dozens of similar prey were taken into the Gate of Exile. Of course, in response to this, Lin Sun's constant consumption of physical strength and the absorption of the elixirs to restore his physical strength. Up until now, I've traveled at least more than 100,000 miles, but why haven't I reached the end? After a long time, Lin Sun suddenly frowned. He had come to the depths of the ultimate to investigate the cause of the shocking changes in the ultimate. But until now, the road ahead was still filled with vast ocean-like fluctuations of vitality. It was incomparably violent, and he had no idea where the end was. Forget it, I'll just take it as picking up corpses. Lin Sun shook his head and continued to move forward. In this way, after half a day, Lin Sun had just completely recovered his physical strength and was about to completely withdraw the Seal of Time when he suddenly froze. In his field of vision, a huge silhouette that rose to the sky faintly flashed in the depths, like a huge door across the heaven and earth. But because it was drowned by the vast expanse of white vitality, he could not see it clearly at all. But even so, it still made Lin Sun's heart shake. After withdrawing the Seal of Time, he immediately used the Gate of Exile and rushed in that direction. As he approached, he saw that there was a huge door that reached the sky in the extreme distance. It was unimaginably huge and shocking. It was just like the legendary Gate of Heaven. And the vast expanse of white vitality surged out of the huge door, vast and mighty, covering the sky and earth. It was a spectacular sight. So that's how it is. The power that caused the shocking changes in the ultimate obviously came from this huge mysterious door. Lin Sun's eyes flickered. At the same time, he also noticed that as the vast ocean-like vitality rushed out, it also brought out many broken items from the huge door. They were all filled with the aura of eternity. There were broken pieces of treasures, broken limbs, and pieces of corpses left behind by Eternal Realm figures. It gave people the feeling that the huge door to heaven was a world of graves, and countless Eternal Realm existences were buried there. This was undoubtedly very horrifying and very strange, because the vast vitality that caused the shocking changes in the ultimate also came from the huge door. One was the surging and endless vitality, and the other was the various pieces of corpses that represented death. They both came from the same place, giving people an extremely strong contrast. Anyone who saw it would probably feel palpitations and unease. At this moment, Lin Sun could not help but hesitate. Should he go to the mysterious huge door to find out? Chapter 3077. Lin Sun fell into deep thought. He had 2 choices now. One was to stay here so that he could continue to collect prey. But there was a drawback. That was, under the constant use of the two forbidden abilities, the Gate of Exile and the Seal of Time, his physical strength would be rapidly consumed. Therefore, restoring his physical strength became the key. Lin Sun had a lot of resources now. He had a lot of divine medicines that could replenish his physical strength, but at the current rate of consumption, he could only last for 3 months at most. The other choice was to continue moving forward and rush into the mysterious giant door. This was undoubtedly risky. After all, no one knew how terrifying the dangers were hidden behind the door. But at the same time, as long as he entered it, he might be able to find out the true cause of the shocking change in the ultimate. What should I do? Lin Sun was a little hesitant. His 5 Taoist bodies and the abyssal sword cauldron were left in the Yuan sect. He could only rely on his original body to move. If anything happened, it might even affect his plan to bring everyone from the secret world of mind to the eternal world. Forget it. I'll stay here and observe for a while. Lin Sun took a deep breath and made a decision. He was never an indecisive person. After making his decision, he immediately rushed into the Gate of Exile and decided to refine the eternal rules left by his prey in the next few days. 2 giant corpse-slaying discs, one black and one white, slowly rotated in the void, emitting the power of obliterating rules. Dozens of light balls of various sizes floated nearby. They were red, green, white, black, purple, beautiful, and colorful, emitting different auras of eternal rules. 39. Some of the eternal rules obviously came from the same eternal realm figure. The aura they emit is exactly the same. Lin Sun instantly realized that the eternal rules should have come from 9 eternal realm figures. What he could be sure of was that these 9 people had died in the giant mysterious door in the depths of the ultimate a long time ago. Without further delay, Lin Sun waved his sleeve and left the Gate of Exile with the eternal rules. Swish. As he put away the Gate of Exile, Lin Sun once again used the power of the Seal of Time. He sat cross-legged in the formation and began to meditate. I wonder to what extent my immortal law will evolve after refining these eternal laws. Lin Yun muttered to himself. Next, Lin Sun abandoned all distracting thoughts and calmed himself down to restore his strength. Rumble, the vast vitality was like a vast ocean, pouring out from the huge mysterious door in the distance, rumbling and exploding. That kind of energy fluctuation could easily kill an immortal realm expert. At this time, even Lin Sun could only rely on the power of his talent to resist and resolve it. Otherwise, with his transcendent realm great perfection level cultivation, he might not be killed, but he would definitely be severely injured by the impact. Under such circumstances, the power of the Seal of Time would also be severely impacted and would only be able to last for a day at most. Fortunately, 1 day was more than enough for Lin Sun. 6 hours later, Lin Sun's exhausted strength was restored to its peak state. After that, he spent another 12 hours to refine all 39 eternal laws one by one. These eternal laws were refined by the corpse-slaying divine discs obliteration laws. They were extremely pure and had no impurities, so it was naturally easy to refine them. Back when he was in the 10 devilish territory, Lin Sun had collected fragments that belonged to God-level sequences. However, the power contained within them couldn't compare to these eternal ifs at all. It was like the difference between a drop of rain and a great river. The difference was like heaven and earth. After refining the 39 eternals, Lin Sun could clearly feel that the power of his law of eternity had improved by a large margin. This transformation confused Lin Sun a little. When he returned to the starry sky ancient land, the power of his immortal law was already comparable to that of a god-level sequence. Why couldn't it nirvana? Refining the remaining 10% of the Order's core power was limited by his own cultivation base. But now, the immortal law that he possessed was comparable to a god-level sequence, and it was even showing signs of further transformation. This was completely beyond his imagination. If it continued to evolve, Could it be even more powerful than a god-level sequence? For the first time, Lin Sun felt that his immortal law was somewhat abnormal. After pondering for a long time, he was sure that this was related to the 90% nirvana divine beast. It was related to order. After a long time, Lin Sun abandoned all distractions and looked at the huge mysterious portal in the distance. He removed the power of the seal of time and released the door of exile. It was like an experienced fisherman casting a large net. Vast waves of vitality poured out endlessly, and it also brought out many items that exuded the aura of eternity. Occasionally, he could also see broken limbs left behind by eternal realm figures. These were the prey that Lin Sun wanted to capture. For 3 consecutive days, Lin Sun had been waiting in this area, and on average, he could collect about 30 types of eternal law power every day. After refining these eternal laws, his immortal law also kept undergoing subtle changes. Until now, Lin Sun had a feeling that the power of his immortal law could probably be considered super god level now. However, as he refined these eternal laws, Lin Sun also felt that the transformation of the immortal law had obviously slowed down. It was as if the power of the eternal law contained in the broken prey could no longer significantly improve his own immortal law. On this day, Lin Sun stared at the huge mysterious portal in the distance. In the end, he decided to go there. If there's a life-threatening threat, I'll just leave immediately. Lin Sun took a deep breath, released the power of the door of exile, and began to move. The closer he got to the huge mysterious portal, the more terrifying the pressure became. It could easily crush any undying. Even with the power of the door of exile, Lin Sun found it difficult to move. After a full 15 minutes, Lin Sun's figure finally faced the white waves of vitality and disappeared into the huge mysterious portal. Rumble! The moment he entered the mysterious portal, Lin Sun felt his body lighten, as if the 100,000 mountains that were pressing down on him had been removed. It was also at this time that Lin Sun clearly saw the world within the mysterious portal. The sky was dark and one couldn't see the end of it. The dusky sky was like an iron curtain, murky and devoid of light. The earth was undulating, stretching out in all directions, empty and desolate. Waves of chaotic mist floated in the void, covering this place with a mysterious veil. Behind Lin Sun, there was a space-time portal of only 30 meters. Obviously, this mysterious portal led to where he had just come from, but compared to the huge entrance, this exit was much smaller. Rumble, on the ground, a chaotic river was roaring in the mountains. The water was surging and surging with boundless vitality. The river surged and roared, rushing towards the exit. I see. Lin Sun immediately understood. The vitality that caused the ultimate to change came from this vast chaotic river, and this also meant that as long as he followed this chaotic river upstream, he would be able to find its source. Lin Sun directly flew forward. The heaven and earth surged with an oppressive aura. Lin Sun could acutely feel that even if Eternal Realm experts were to fight here, it would be difficult to shake the nomological power of this heaven and earth. In other words, this place could withstand the battle power of Eternal Realm experts. Apart from this, as Lin Sun followed the chaotic river, he also felt waves of surging primitive vitality, extremely dense and pure, even faintly carrying traces of eternal power. If I cultivate here, it will be greatly beneficial to attaining eternal Tao, Lin Sun exclaimed in his heart. Along the way, he also noticed that there were many fragments of corpses, treasure fragments, and so on flashing in the chaotic river from time to time. Unfortunately, the power of the chaotic river was too violent. Lin Sun tried to get close to it, but the result surprised him. Even the power of the Gate of Exile would be instantly washed away. This made Lin Sun extremely vigilant, and he was especially cautious along the way. After traveling for a full 6 hours, Lin Sun felt that he had traveled at least 100,000 miles, and in the gray misty world in front of him, 5 mountains appeared. Each mountain showed a different shape. Some of them looked like burning flames and were covered in a mysterious blood-red glow. Some of them were as black as iron and were barren. They were covered in jagged rocks and were filled with a terrifying cold, killing intent. Some of them were the 5 mountains were unimaginably large, and the sun, moon, and stars were as small as gravel in front of them. It gave off the feeling that it wasn't 5 mountains, but 5 vast worlds. It was too majestic and majestic. The great river of chaos flowed down from the 5 sacred mountains, flowed around the 5 sacred mountains, and rushed towards the direction where Lin Sun came from. Finally, it rushed out of the exit of this world. The source of the shocking changes in the ultimate is in these 5 mountains. Lin Sun was shocked. At this time, he was still extremely far away from the 5 mountains, but because the 5 mountains were so large, he could still see how majestic and majestic they were. They were like the 5 pillars that held up this expanse of the heavens and the earth, and peerlessly surging vitality flowed down like a waterfall. In the end, it transformed into a chaotic river that wound for a few hundreds of thousands of kilometers and charged out of this expanse of the heavens and the earth. Thus, in a short period of 10 years, it caused a tremendous change in the ancient path in the starry sky. For a time, countless doubts came to Lin Sun's mind. Was this place still in the ultimate? What was the origin of the 5 mountains? Why were there so many corpses and treasures of the eternal realm? Was there a war of the eternal realm on the 5 mountains a long time ago, which made it the burial place of the eternal realm? Lin Sun's expression was uncertain. P.S. Today is a big update for this month's new leaders, such as Will, Giadaleo, Big Brother, Xiaoji, and Awadara. This is 3 consecutive updates. There will be a big explosion today, and another 3 consecutive updates will be made before 6 o'clock in the evening. On the last day of the month, if you have a monthly ticket, please vote. After today, it will be 0. Chapter 3078. After a moment of silence, Lin Sun decided to explore it. Whoosh! His figure flickered and approached the towering mountain in front of him, which was covered with scarlet glow. As he got closer, Lin Sun could see clearly that the scarlet glow on the mountain was emitted by the blood stains left on the rock. The blood stains were all over the mountain like plum blossoms, diffusing the aura of the eternal realm, which was extremely terrifying. Suddenly, Lin Sun's heart trembled. He saw that on top of the blood-colored mountain, there were faint, illusory figures flashing in the mist, like ghosts, suddenly appearing and then suddenly disappearing. Even so, Lin Sun shuddered and felt a strong sense of danger. He hadn't really gotten close to the mountain yet, let alone set foot on it. Just looking at it from a distance gave him a piercing sense of danger. What the hell are these illusory figures? Lin Sun stopped at once, feeling uncertain. Whoosh! Suddenly, a bloody light flashed in the void, followed by a shadow appearing out of thin air and rushing at Lin Sun at an incredible speed. Lin Sun had goosebumps all over his body and was about to use the Gate of Exile subconsciously. But at this moment, a ray of white glow swept out. Bang! The illusory figure was hit by the white glow and let out a painful roar, shaking the earth. But in the blink of an eye, the illusory figure disappeared in the white glow. Lin Sun saw clearly that the ray of glow was a pagoda that seemed to be made of divine gold. It was crystal clear and glowing, sacred and boundless. Endless Tower? Lin Sun almost cried out at the first sight, because he was too familiar with that pagoda. Don't shout, be careful of disturbing the bloody, evil spirit on this mountain. A voice sounded quickly, and then Lin Sun saw a familiar figure rushing over and appearing beside him. Dressed in a Taoist robe, he was as handsome as a young man, full of spirit. It was Ling Xuanzi, the 4th senior fellow apprentice. 4th senior fellow apprentice, why are you here? Lin Sun was stunned and extremely surprised. He didn't expect to meet the 4th senior fellow apprentice here. Little junior fellow apprentice, why are you here? Ling Xuanzi put away the great Tao Endless Tower with a puzzled expression. Lin soon told them about his return to the starry ancient path one by one. Only then did Ling Xuanzi come to a sudden understanding, and he said with a smile, "So that's how it is. No wonder you were able to find this place." "How about you, fourth brother?" Lin Sun asked. Ling Xuanzi glanced at the surroundings and said, "This place is too strange and dangerous. Let's find a safe place to talk." As he said, he took Lin Sun to the distance and finally stopped in a canyon. To Lin Sun's surprise, there was a cave in the canyon with futons, tables, beds, pill furnaces and other furnishings. With just a glance, Lin Sun knew that Ling Xuanzi must have lived here for a long time. "Little junior brother, feel free to take a seat." After walking into the abode, Ling Xuanzi seemed to have completely relaxed. He sat down and stretched comfortably before taking out a jug of wine and gulping it down. "Junior brother, it's a long story. Back then, near the mysterious world outside Chaotian City, after I sent you away, I was discovered by Master. Master rescued me and brought me to the seventh heaven." Ling Xuanzi handed the jug to Lin Sun. "At that time, Master gave me two choices. One was to stay by third senior sister's side and listen to her orders. The other was to sneak into Zen's sect and inquire about its ancestor Shi. Because according to Master, Shi is very likely to be related to the culprit behind the calamity of the era." Hearing this, Lin Sun was shocked. He remembered the game when Witchcraft sect and Zen sect joined forces to attack the ancestral court of Yuan sect. At that time, the will of the ancestors of the four ancestral court appeared. Moreover, the will of the spirit sect's ancestral master, Void Invisibility, even said bluntly that the era calamity would descend within 1,000 years. There was only one possibility for the shaman cult and Zen cult, the two ancestral halls, to join forces and attack the origin sect at such a time. That was, there was a culprit behind the scenes directing all of this. In other words, the situation at that time was like a game of chess. Witchcraft sect and Zen sect were chess pieces, and the player was the culprit behind the scenes. The purpose of playing chess was to eliminate the threat of Lin Sun, who had the potential of a mortal supreme master and mastered the Nirvana order. At this moment, after listening to the words of Ling Xuanzi, Lin Sun suddenly realized that if the person who played chess at that time was really the culprit behind the scenes, then it was very likely that Shi, the ancestor of Zen sect, had something to do with this culprit behind the scenes. "I chose to sneak into Zen sect," Ling Xuanzi continued. "With my ability, it was naturally not a problem for me to become a descendant of Zen sect. After staying in Zen sect for 18 years, I finally found out some valuable news." "What news?" Lin Sun was curious. Ling Xuanzi said, "Before Shi, the ancestor of Zen sect, left Zen sect and went to the ruins of Tao. He left 3 treasures. One was his will, one was the secret treasure of the divine order of Zen sect, and the last one was a stone statue." "Stone statue?" "Yes, but it's a pity that this stone statue has been kept by Fanon, an eternal realm figure of Zen sect. I haven't even seen what this stone statue looks like." Ling Xuanzi curled his lips. "Senior brother, do you suspect that this stone statue has something to do with the culprit behind the scenes?" "Of course," Ling Xuanzi said without hesitation. "Although I didn't see that stone statue, I found a scripture left by a sage of Zen sect in the ancient scripture tower after many inquiries. This scripture recorded some things related to this stone statue, which made me finally sure that Shi, the ancestor of Zen sect, must have some connection with the culprit behind the scenes." Lin soon became more and more curious. "What secret is hidden in that stone statue?" Ling Xuanzi said, "According to the records of the scripture, Shi once sent a decree to his disciple, Fanon, before he left. He said that if the stone statue showed any abnormalities one day, he would have to summon the image he left behind." Lin Sun's pupils suddenly shrank. Last time in Yuan sect's infinite star sea, Lin soon saw the will of Shi, the founder of Zen sect, with his own eyes. Did this mean that before attacking Yuan sect, the stone statue left by Shi in Zen sect had some unusual movements, so the will left by Shi was disturbed? Could the abnormality of this stone statue be the decree of the culprit behind the scenes? It was because of such a decree that Zen sect joined hands with witchcraft cult to go to Yuan sect to deal with him? Thinking of this, Lin Sun told Ling Xuanzi his speculations one by one. After listening, Ling Xuanzi patted his thigh and said excitedly, "It should be so. The stone statue is a treasure to communicate with the culprit behind the scenes." Obviously, Shi already knew the function of this stone statue when he left. At that time, he already knew the use of this stone statue, which was why he left the stone statue and his Dharma projection behind. Lin Sun's heart was rolling and he couldn't calm down. Shi, the ancestor of Zen sect, was a mighty figure who had walked through many eras. It was really surprising that such an existence should have a connection with the culprit behind the scenes. Besides all this, I even found out that two extremely mysterious inscriptions of the Grand Tao of the Grand Tao are inscribed at the bottom of this stone statue, and they're called Absolute Beginning. These two words are taken to be a taboo, and facing these two words is like facing a supreme existence, causing one to be unable to arouse any thoughts of disrespect or resistance. Ling Xuanzi stroked his chin with his eyes shining. Just two words have such power. I wonder if this is the name of the culprit behind the scenes. Hearing this, Lin Sun was completely stunned. The beginning. As early as in the Ruins of Fate, he had heard from 13, the general of Eternal Night Divine Emperor, that a long time ago, Eternal Night Divine Emperor had been attacked by the Great Silence Fatality on his way to the Divine City of Fate. During this calamity, a Tao bell that was suffused with the aura of chaos had appeared, and it was called the Absolute Beginning Bell. The bottom of a stone statue was engraved with two words, the beginning. In the Great Silence Fatality, there also appeared the beginning bell. How could this be a coincidence? At this point, Lin Sun dared to conclude that Shi, the patriarch of the Zen sect, must be related to the culprit behind the scenes, and the two words, the beginning, were destined to refer to the culprit behind the scenes. Thinking of this, Lin Sun couldn't help thinking of Qin Linkong and his grandfather Qin Shi. Could they have found these clues? After a while, Lin Sun shook his head and stopped thinking about it. What happened next? Lin Sun asked. Ling Xuanzi said, "Later, when I was investigating, I was accidentally discovered and almost caught by those old donkeys of the Zen sect. After I escaped from the Zen sect, I intended to look for third senior sister Ruosu, but then I met second senior brother Zhongqiu." Lin Sun's expression was strange because as far as he knew, Zhongqiu hated Ling Xuanzi the most because Zhongqiu suspected that Ling Xuanzi had leaked his inheritance to Shi Tiandi. Back in the Kunlun ruins, Zhongqiu had asked him to kill the traitor fourth senior brother. "Why are you looking at me like that?" Ling Xuanzi glared at Lin Sun angrily. "The misunderstanding has long been resolved. When second senior brother saw me, he was extremely intimate." "Really?" Lin Sun was doubtful. Ling Xuanzi's cheeks twitched and he said, "We're brothers. Why would I lie to you?" Although he said that, Lin Sun always felt that Ling Xuanzi was a little guilty. However, he didn't ask any more questions. Ling Xuanzi didn't want to talk about it anymore and directly changed the topic. "In short, after I met second senior brother, I left the eternal world under the arrangement of Master's will and came to the land of buried Tao in the deepest part of the ultimate. Master said that as long as I keep cultivating here, I can embark on the eternal path that belongs to me. Counting with my fingers, it has been nearly 100 years since I arrived here." At the end of his words, his face was full of emotion. The land of buried Tao. Lin Sun finally understood why fourth senior brother Ling Xuanzi would appear here. All of this was arranged by Master. That's right. A long time ago, Master established the sect of Fangtsuan Mountain in the ultimate. How could he not know that there is a world called the Land of Buried Tao in the deepest part of the ultimate? Lin Sun thought. Chapter 3079. The Buried Tao Grounds. An extremely mysterious world. According to his fourth senior brother, Ling Xuanzi, in the past, this place would have dried up and nothing would exist, and it would be no different from an abandoned wasteland. However, as long as the calamity of the end of an era was about to arrive, the buried Tao grounds would undergo a shocking change. For example, the current change in the ultimate was caused by the fluctuation of vitality produced by the buried Tao ground. The change here is indeed related to the impending calamity of the era. It was also at this moment that Lin Sun was finally sure of this. However, all sorts of doubts surged into his mind, such as the origins of the corpses and treasures he saw along the way, the mysteries of the 5 mountains, and so on. In the following period of time, he consulted Ling Xuanzi one by one. Ling Xuanzi naturally wouldn't hide anything. It turned out that before the destruction of every era, eternal realm figures from all over the world would gather in the Kunlun ruins in order to avoid the attack of the Great Silence calamity and fight in the Kunlun ruins, hoping to seize an opportunity to head to the ruins of Tao. Just like now, there were already many eternal realm figures gathered in the Kunlun ruins. For example, Tai Xian, Yanji Yu Beihai, and the others from the Origin sect, as well as the eternal realm figures from the Witchcraft sect, Zen sect, and Ninth Heaven were all in the Kunlun ruins. However, not every eternal realm figure could avoid the slaughter of the Great Silence calamity, and not everyone had the opportunity to cross to the ruins of Tao. Every time an era was destroyed, all living beings in the world would not be able to escape the slaughter of the 5 Blight Tao calamity. Similarly, there would be many eternal realm figures who encountered the Great Silence calamity and died in the Kunlun ruins. Only a small portion of them could survive the destruction of an era. The corpses and treasures of those eternal realm figures who had fallen in the Kunlun ruins during the calamity of the era were left behind in the buried Tao grounds. The 5 mountains of the buried Tao grounds were the birthplaces of the core origin of the ultimate ruins. They were Yingzhou, Penglai, Fanghu, Daiyu, and Yuanjiao. Every mountain was distributed with a type of origin law order. For example, Yingzhou Mountain spanned 30,000 kilometers. The origin law it possessed could transform the blood and spirit of any living being in the world into the most origin life force of the Great Tao. Mount Penglai, for example, was 99,000 miles wide. The rules it possessed could transform the body power of any living creature in the world into the purest life force of the Great Tao. The quintessence laws of Mount Fanghu, Mount Daiyu, and Mount Yuanzhang could respectively refine souls, Tao attainments, and foreign objects. In the end, they would also be refined into the most original life force of the Great Tao. As such, the quintessence laws contained within these 5 mountains were also known as the 5 sequences of the bottomless abyss. Every time an era was about to end, the 5 mountains would refine all the power of the eternal realm experts who had fallen in the last era into the origin of the Great Way and feed it back to heaven and earth. After the era was destroyed, the eternal stage figures that had fallen in the Kunlun ruins would be collected and stored by the Tao burial ground. It was like a cycle. Knowing these secrets, Lin Sun couldn't help but be horrified and said, "So, the vitality force that keeps rushing to the outside world comes from those eternal realm figures who died in the destruction of the last era." Ling Xuanzi nodded and said, "This is like a fallen leaf returning to its roots, transforming into fertilizer for the earth to accumulate energy for the next era. Could it be that this is related to the mastermind?" Lin Sun couldn't help but ask. Ling Xuanzi shook his head. Every place in the heavens might be affected by the power of the mastermind, but only the 4 great ruins of Tao won't. Even the ruins of creation has only been turned into a prison by the mastermind behind the scenes. The ruins of creation's origin energy still exists. Lin Sun nodded. The origin of creation was in the divine city of creation, so he naturally knew about this. Similarly, although the origin of the bottomless abyss has dried up, as long as these 5 mountains are here, it's impossible for it to be occupied by the mastermind. Ling Xuanzi continued, there's also origin energy distributed in the Kunlun ruins. This origin energy is related to the ruins of Tao, so it's giving those eternal realm figures a chance to head to the ruins of Tao. Lin Sun was shocked. In that case, the 4 great ruins of Tao aren't isolated from each other, but are related to each other. The corpses of the eternal realm figures who had fallen in the Kunlun ruins would appear in the ruins of End. On the other hand, the eternal realm figures who had succeeded in the Kunlun ruins would have a chance to arrive at the ruins of Tao. This made Lin Sun suspect that the ruins of creation should be related to the other 3 ruins of Tao. Sure enough, Ling Xuanzi nodded in the next moment and gave his affirmation. The 4 great ruins of Tao are really mysterious. The more I understand, the different perceptions and feelings I have, and it often overturns my imagination. Lin Sun sighed. Ling Xuanzi smiled and said, Now, what else do you want to ask, junior brother? Lin Sun thought of something and said, Senior brother, why is the great Tao Endless Tower in your hands? Ling Xuanzi's smile froze, and he immediately said vigilantly, Junior brother, this was personally given to me by Master for me to have the capital to seize opportunities in the buried Tao land. You can't snatch it from me. He also knew that Lin Sun had obtained the help of the great Tao Endless Tower when he was young, so he had deep feelings for this treasure. Lin Sun replied with an "Oh" and said, Why are you so nervous? I'm just curious about what the phantom that this treasure subdued just now was. Ling Xuanzi immediately heaved a sigh of relief and said, That's a blood-soul ferocious spirit on Yingzhou Mountain. It's formed from the blood-soul power of an eternal realm figure, and its combat power is extremely abnormal and ferocious. It's 10 times or even 100 times stronger than the will of an eternal realm figure. If it wasn't for the Endless Tower, I wouldn't have been a match for such a ferocious creature all these years. Didn't the blood-soul ferocious spirit say that the blood-soul power left behind by the eternal realm would be transformed into the most original great Tao power by the rule power of Yingzhou Mountain? Lin Sun was stunned. Ling Xuanzi laughed and said, Junior brother, this shocking change in the ultimate ruins has only lasted for more than 20 years. How can the power left by the eternal realm be completely refined so easily? If you come a few decades later, you definitely won't see these blood-soul ferocious spirits again. After a pause, he continued, and now, to us, not only the bloody soul ferocious spirit on Yingzhou Mountain, but even the eternal ferocious corpse on Penglai Mountain, the indestructible ferocious spirit on Fanghu Mountain, the Taoist spirit on Daiyu Mountain, and the eternal ferocious weapon on Yuanzhang Mountain are all great opportunities for us. What do you mean? Lin Sun asked. Ling Xuanzi said, Because if we subdue and refine them, we can get the eternal great Tao power. As he said, he took out the great Tao Endless Tower and had a thought. A crystal-clear blood-colored gem-like object emerged. It was the size of a cobblestone, dazzling and surging with eternal breath. Ling Xuanzi said proudly, Junior brother, look, this is the blood-soul ferocious spirit that was subdued by the great Tao Endless Tower just now. It is the purest eternal source power and has immeasurable benefits for our cultivation. This kind of treasure can't be found in the eternal world. Lin Sun took it and looked at it. He couldn't help but be moved. The eternal breath contained in this treasure wasn't huge, but it was extremely rich and pure. This is the eternal bloodstone. It has immeasurable benefits for tempering the qi and blood of the eternal realm. Ling Xuanzi said quickly, and the eternal corpse, eternal evil spirit, great Tao monster, and eternal murderous weapon can be refined into 4 kinds of treasures: eternal rule, eternal soul crystal, eternal Tao stone, and eternal divine materials. Each of them has different magical effect. Even those in the eternal realm will covet treasures of this level. As he said, Ling Xuanzi put his arm around Lin Sun's shoulder and said with great pride, and now, these opportunities belong to us. With them, we don't have to worry about not being able to achieve the eternal Tao. Lin Sun's heart was in turmoil. There was no doubt that all of this was indeed a shocking great opportunity. However, he looked at Ling Xuanzi and said, "Senior brother, you've been here for many years. You must have obtained a lot of opportunities, but why is your cultivation still stuck at the transcendent realm great perfection?" Ling Xuanzi's expression froze, and he said seriously, "Junior brother, no matter how many opportunities there are, they will only play a supporting role in achieving the eternal Tao. Only when one's cultivation is stable and his state of mind is flawless is the key to achieving the eternal Tao." Lin Sun laughed and said, "Senior brother, you're right." Ling Xuanzi couldn't help but laugh and said, "All right, just tell me if you want to join forces with me to hunt for opportunities." Lin Sun said without hesitation, "Of course. Let's go, I'll take you to Yingzhou Mountain to take a look." Ling Xuanzi immediately got up and walked out of the cave residence. In front of Yingzhou Mountain, Ling Xuanzi stopped and transmitted his voice, "Junior brother, look, this mountain is covered in thick fog and bloody light. Occasionally, you can see phantoms, which are all bloody soul ferocious spirit. We can't make too much noise when dealing with such ferocious spirit. Otherwise, they will come in group." After a pause, he said, "In the past, I would stay in front of this Yingzhou mountain and lure a bloody soul ferocious spirit with my aura like fishing. When it comes out of Yingzhou mountain, I would suppress it with the Tower of Ceaseless. This way, it's effortless, and I don't have to worry about encountering danger." After speaking, he glanced at Lin Sun, seemingly wanting to hear Lin Sun's praise. However, Lin Sun frowned and said, "In this case, what if the bloody soul ferocious spirit doesn't take the bait?" Ling Xuanzi said, "Wait, there will be a time when it takes the bait." Lin Sun shook his head and said, "It's too slow, and it's a waste of time." Ling Xuanzi said angrily, "That's the bloody soul ferocious spirit, formed by the eternal realm's qi and blood. It can easily kill people like us. If we don't do this, do you want to go to Yingzhou Mountain?" Unexpectedly, Lin Sun nodded and said, "If I can subdue more bloody soul ferocious spirits in this way, why not go up the mountain?" Ling Xuanzi widened his eyes as if he didn't know Lin Sun. He said, "Junior brother, when did you become more arrogant than me?" Lin Sun smiled slightly and said, "Senior brother, let me ask you, do these bloody soul ferocious spirits have wisdom?" Ling Xuanzi shook his head and said, "No, they are just formed by qi and blood. Although they are ferocious spirits, they only have an extremely brutal obsession to kill. There is no wisdom at all." Lin Sun smiled and said, "Then there's no problem. Let's go up the mountain and have a look." As he spoke, he strode forward. Chapter 3080. Ling Xuanzi was stunned and quickly chased after him. "Junior brother, aren't you being too rash?" "Senior brother, you'll know later," Lin Sun said with a smile as he flew up to Yingzhou Mountain. "How many years have you become so arrogant after not seeing each other?" Ling Xuanzi raised his brows. Seeing that Lin Sun was about to disappear, he dared not think too much and flew over while taking out the Tower of Endless. No matter what, Lin Sun was his junior brother. As his senior brother, he naturally would not watch Lin Sun go to the extremely dangerous Yingzhou Divine Mountain alone. Yingzhou Divine Mountain was extremely huge and spanned 30,000 miles. The mountains undulated and were filled with blood light. When Lin Sun got closer, he immediately felt a strange and obscure rule power fluctuation. It was like a thick stream of water that covered every inch of Yingzhou Mountain. Ling Xuanzi reminded, "Junior brother, this is one of the ultimate 5 sequences. It's one of the ultimate rule's origins. You can call it the blood transformation rule. If you go over like this, you'll also be attacked by the blood transformation rule." By then, before he finished speaking, the immortal law flowed on Lin Sun's body and easily offset the power of the blood transformation rule. He then stepped onto Yingzhou Mountain. It was so easy as if he was taking a stroll in the park. Ling Xuanzi was stunned. Suddenly, he wanted to slap himself. So what if it was the blood transformation rule? Did he need to worry about his junior brother? See, he was slapped in the face now. Fourth senior brother, why aren't you going? Lin Sun turned his head and asked in confusion. Ling Xuanzi was surprised. Only then did he notice that the immortal law flowed on Lin Sun's body and offset the blood transformation rule nearby, forming an empty area. That way, he could get closer without any hindrance. Junior brother, your immortal law can actually resist the power of rule. Ling Xuanzi walked over and could not help but say. Lin Sun nodded. He appeared to be very calm in front of his senior brother. He said, after refining most of the Nirvana Order's power, my immortal order is different from others. Well, it's not inferior to the Divine Order anymore. Lin Sun was being modest. On the way to the Tao burial grounds, he'd ceaselessly refined and absorbed the energy of the eternal laws he'd gathered, and it had allowed the eternal laws to undergo a further transformation since a long time ago. It was even superior to ordinary divine rank laws. But even then, Ling Xuanzi still couldn't help but gasp. What a Nirvana order! You really make me jealous. He was telling the truth. Before Lin Sun joined Mount Fangsuan, he, Ling Xuanzi, was the most talented and had the strongest aptitude. He was known as the unrivaled throughout the ages. But ever since he had Lin Sun, his title of Peerless Master of all ages had become inconspicuous. Comparisons are really odious, Ling Xuanzi muttered to himself. Fourth senior brother, your speed of advancement is swifter than mine, and your comprehension ability is higher than mine. If it wasn't for you being suppressed by Master for countless years, your current attainments in the Grand Tao would be bound to be far greater than this. Lin Sun said with a smile while walking along the rugged and winding mountain road. Ling Xuanzi instantly felt much better in his heart, and he chuckled. Junior brother, you're right. As he spoke up to hear, his expression changed abruptly. Be careful, junior brother. In the mist not far away, a shadow suddenly flashed by with a boundlessly terrifying aura. It was precisely the blood-soul ferocious spirit formed from the vital energy and blood of an eternal realm expert. As he spoke, Ling Xuanzi had already subconsciously rushed forward and activated the Endless Pagoda to help Lin Sun kill the enemy. This inadvertent action warmed Lin Sun's heart. Swoosh! The blood-soul ferocious spirit charged over like a scarlet bolt of lightning. It had a blurry appearance, and its entire body was condensed from bloody light. When it charged over, its violent killing intent spread out, causing Lin Sun to shudder with fear. Just as fourth senior brother had said, the ferocity of this blood-soul ferocious spirit was 10 times or even 100 times stronger than the will of an eternal realm expert. Not to mention that he only had his main body. Even if he had his 5 clones, he was afraid that he wouldn't be a match for it. Buzz! The Endless Pagoda swept out, releasing a vast expanse of white light. When the blood-soul ferocious spirit rushed over, it was immediately trapped in it, and it let out a furious roar. Lin Sun clearly saw that the blood-soul ferocious spirit's frantic struggle was of no use. It was firmly suppressed by the power of the Endless Pagoda, and in a few blinks of an eye, it was suppressed into the Endless Pagoda. I never thought that the Endless Pagoda could still have such power, Lin Sun praised. In the past, when the Endless Pagoda was in his hands, it was completely like a large storage warehouse, and it didn't exert much power. Ling Xuanzi held the Endless Pagoda in his hand and said with a smile, Junior brother, it's not your fault. The power of the Endless Pagoda has been sealed by Master. In those years, you could only use the power of the first floor of this treasure, dark golden Tao light, so its power was naturally limited. But since the Dharma that Master left in this pagoda outside the God's relic was awakened, the power of the pagoda's seal was also unlocked. Just like now, I'm using the power of white Tao light on the 39th floor of this pagoda, and it's enough to easily deal with the blood-soul ferocious spirit. The only flaw is that with my current cultivation, I can only use it 6 times at most, and each time I can only subdue 1 blood-soul ferocious spirit. Speaking of this, Ling Xuanzi couldn't help but smack his lips regretfully. How many floors does the endless pagoda have? Lin Sun couldn't help but ask. 49 floors. Ling Xuanzi said, no matter what our master does, he has always based on the number of great ways. For example, this endless pagoda has 54 floors, and the entire pagoda represents the 50th floor. As the saying goes, there are 50 great ways and 49 heavenly evolutions. For example, in our Fangsuan mountain, there were originally 49 blessed caves, and there were 49 descendants. Speaking of this, Ling Xuanzi glanced at Lin Sun. Junior brother, now you understand how special you are to be accepted as a disciple by Master, right? Lin Sun thought for a moment and said, although I respect Master, I never care about these things. Whether it's predestined or not, and no matter how the number of great ways evolves, from the beginning of cultivation to the present, I only pursue my own Tao, and other things are like floating clouds to me. Ling Xuanzi raised his thumb. Well said. Cultivation is ultimately one's own matter. Master has also said that a disciple doesn't have to be inferior to a master. The great Tao that he seeks and the things that he believes in might not be something that we disciples have to follow. Otherwise, how can there be a time when the student surpasses the master? He was full of emotion, however. If we disciples want to surpass Master's current level, I'm afraid there's still a very long way to go. As he said, Lin Sun's pupils shrank. On the road ahead, there were more than a dozen terrifying and violent breaths. Ling Xuanzi was stunned, and then he shouted anxiously, I told you that setting foot on this Yingzhou mountain is very easy to cause a group fight with the blood-soul ferocious spirits. Let's go. As he said, he was about to rush out of Yingzhou mountain. Such a group of blood-soul ferocious spirits couldn't be resisted even with the Tower of Termination. But at this time, Lin Sun's eyes lit up. Instead of leaving, he took a deep breath. Senior brother, leave it to me. Whoosh, whoosh. More than a dozen blood-soul ferocious spirits rushed out and rushed over here. Each of them was full of blood and the aura they released was violent and terrifying. That scene made Ling Xuanzi's face turn green, and he shouted, Junior brother, you're playing with fire. Go, go. But Lin Sun didn't move at all. When the dozen blood-soul ferocious spirits rushed over, he didn't hesitate to use the Gate of Exile. Boom. A space portal with a range of 300 meters emerged, like the gate to the abyss of hell was opened at this moment, emitting a frightening light. The next moment, more than a dozen blood-soul ferocious spirits rushed into the Gate of Exile, like a school of fish throwing themselves into a net, and disappeared without a trace in the blink of an eye. Ling Xuanzi, who was extremely anxious and ready to fight with all his strength, was dumbfounded. He stammered, What kind of power is this? In an instant, more than a dozen blood-soul ferocious spirits that could easily kill them disappeared just like that. This made Ling Xuanzi feel a little confused for a moment. This was too easy. Gate of Exile, the 4th stage of the devouring abyss. Lin Sun explained casually. He shrunk the Gate of Exile into a light shadow and said quickly, Senior brother, let's hurry up while my power hasn't dissipated. Maybe we can sweep more prey. As he said, he rushed forward. Ling Xuanzi's lips twitched. Until now, he finally understood why Lin Sun dared to climb this Yingzhou mountain so arrogantly. His immortal law could compete with the blood transformation law. The divine ability he possessed was even capable of easily capturing those blood-soul ferocious spirits like catching fish with a large net. For others, Yingzhou Mountain was the most dangerous place in the world. Even the Eternal Realm's Dharma idol was no different from courting death. But for Lin Sun, it was completely a hunting ground that he could roam freely, and the prey would even walk into the trap. Junior brother, wait for me. After Ling Xuanzi calmed down, his heart also became boiling hot. All these years, he had been hiding in the canyon far away from Ingzhou Mountain. It wasn't easy for him to wait for the shocking change in the ultimate, but he found that hunting blood-soul ferocious spirits was full of difficulty and danger. He could only hide outside Ingzhou Mountain and lure the blood-soul ferocious spirits like fishing. Moreover, he might not succeed on the first try. He still needed to wait patiently. Sometimes, if he was lucky, he could catch a blood-soul ferocious spirit in 2 hours. But most of the time, he might not be able to catch a blood-soul ferocious spirit even if he spent 10 days to half a month. But now, Lin Sun's performance gave Ling Xuanzi an opportunity to sweep the prey wantonly. After sweeping the blood-soul ferocious spirits on Ingzhou Mountain, the eternal ferocious corpse on Penglai Mountain, the indestructible ferocious spirit on Fanghu Mountain, the great Dao monster on Daiyu Mountain, and the eternal ferocious weapon on Yuanzhang Mountain. If this goes on, the opportunities on the 5 mountains of the ultimate will be ours. The more Ling Xuanzi thought about it, the more excited he became. It was as if he could see the dawn of the eternal Tao waving at him. Another 3 chapters were delivered. Currently there were 6 chapters. Chapter 3081. The mist was rising and the blood-colored glow was spreading. On the majestic Ingzhou Mountain, Lin Sun moved forward quickly. Whoosh! A bloody soul ferocious spirit rushed over and was taken away by the gate of exile before it could display its ferocious power. It was as easy as catching a big fish. Ling Xuanzi followed closely behind Lin Sun, his eyes shining. He released his extreme cultivation and deliberately caused a great commotion to attract the bloody soul ferocious spirits along the way to cooperate with Lin Sun to sweep the prey. Sure enough, the harvest began to increase. As they moved forward, the blood-soul ferocious spirits that were distributed in different areas of Abode Mountain were alarmed, and they charged out like wave after wave of blood-colored tidewater. Without exception, they were all taken away by Lin Sun's gate of exile. In just a short quarter of an hour, just like that, the 2 of them had hunted over 40 blood-soul ferocious spirit. Such a harvest caused Ling Xuanzi's spirits to tremble, and his face glowed with joy. However, when the power of Lin Sun's gate of exile was exhausted, Ling Xuanzi immediately became nervous and said, "Junior brother, do you want to leave Ingzhou Mountain and take a rest first?" Lin Sun shook his head and said, "It's okay. Let's continue. Senior brother, you continue to be the bait. I'll clean up the prey." Bait. Ling Xuanzi glared at Lin Sun. Although he was indeed playing the role of bait along the way, could Lin Sun not say it out loud? Of course, Ling Xuanzi wouldn't contradict Lin Sun at this time. Otherwise, he would suffer a loss when they finally split the spoils. Buzz. As Lin Sun activated the gate of exile again, the 2 of them swept forward again. Along the way, their cooperation became more and more tacit. There was no need for Lin Sun to remind him at all. Ling Xuanzi could understand a small look or a casual action and take corresponding actions in time. Lin Sun couldn't help but praise that Ling Xuanzi was definitely a good assistant. Time passed bit by bit. A quarter of an hour later, Lin Sun's gate of exile was exhausted again. He made a prompt decision and left Ingzhou Mountain with Ling Xuanzi. There was no other way. His physical strength was also severely exhausted. In the cave residence in the canyon, Lin Sun sat cross-legged in meditation to restore his physical strength, while Ling Xuanzi was thinking about the next action. This operation lasted for about an hour, and we easily hunted 73 blood-soul ferocious spirits and swept through about 30% of Ingzhou Mountain. Junior brother needs to recover his cultivation at this time, Ling Xuanzi pondered in his heart. If that's the case, I'll be able to sweep through this immortal Abode Mountain within 3 days. Thinking of this, he couldn't help but sigh. He had been here for many years, but the number of bloody spirits he had hunted was destined to be far less than what Lin Sun had done in just a few days. After half a day, Lin Sun recovered his physical strength. Without any nonsense, the two brothers rushed to Ingzhou Mountain again. Just as Ling Xuanzi had expected, in just 3 short days, they had swept through the entire 30,000 miles of Immortal Abode Mountain. The blood-soul ferocious spirits that wandered the mountain were also reduced to prey. There were close to 500 of them. This also meant that they would get close to 500 pieces of eternal bloodstones. Junior brother, you've worked hard. After returning from Ingzhou Mountain, Ling Xuanzi enthusiastically took out a pot of wine and handed it to Lin Sun. Come and have a good rest. You've made great contributions in this operation. I have to admire you. Lin Sun smiled while drinking. Senior brother, don't worry. You'll have a share of the eternal bloodstones transformed from these blood-soul ferocious spirit. But now is not the time to divide them. Ling Xuanzi was stunned and immediately realized something. He said, Are you going to sweep through the other 4 mountains in one go? Lin Sun nodded, yes. Although Ingzhou Mountain was extremely large, the number of blood-soul ferocious spirits born was not large. In just 3 days, they had swept through the whole mountain, and the number of blood-soul ferocious spirits they got was only close to 500. Great! Ling Xuanzi patted his thigh and said complacently, Then let's go to Penglai Mountain next. This mountain stretches for 99,000 miles, and there is one of the original rules of the ultimate, body transformation rule distributed on it. The eternal corpses born in it are formed by the body power of the fallen eternal realm. Their combat power is even stronger than the blood-soul ferocious spirit. However, with your gate of exile, it will be a piece of cake to deal with them. He spoke with fervor and assurance, describing the situation of Penglai Mountain. Lin Sun's response was very simple, just one word, Let's go, Penglai Mountain. Black mist was steaming on it, and strange rocks were rugged. The continuous mountain was like the twisted body of a dragon entrenched on the earth. The power of the original rule covered it was completely different from Ingzhou Mountain, but it could not stop Lin Sun's immortal rule. Not long after setting foot on Penglai Mountain, Lin Sun saw an eternal corpse. This ferocious creature looked like an old man. Its thin body was broken and rotten, and half of its head seemed to have been chopped off, hanging crookedly on its neck, looking extremely ferocious and strange. He was also wearing a broken blood-stained Taoist robe. This was different from the corpse fragments he saw on the way to the Tao burial ground. Although this eternal corpse was broken, it was clearly complete. Moreover, the eternal corpse's aura was extremely strange and terrifying, filled with destructive and violent killing power. When it attacked, the eternal power all over its body boiled as if it was burning, and with a wave of its palm, it seemed like it was going to break the mountains and rivers. This was undoubtedly more difficult to deal with than the blood-soul ferocious spirit. After Lin Sun used the Gate of Exile, he did not care about conserving it. He directly expanded it to a range of 10,000 feet and rushed towards the eternal corpse. Boom! The eternal corpse's palm power was extremely terrifying. Although it was engulfed by the Gate of Exile, it shook the Gate of Exile violently. Fortunately, the eternal corpse had no intelligence. Seeing Lin Sun charging over, it did not dodge and directly charged over, as if it wanted to break the Gate of Exile and kill Lin Sun and Ling Xuanzi. Its ferocious might shocked Ling Xuanzi to the point that he broke out in cold sweat. Fortunately, this ferocious creature was still devoured by the Gate of Exile in the end, so it could be considered a false alarm. Taking away an eternal fierce corpse consumes nearly 30% of the Gate of Exile's power. At this rate, the Gate of Exile can only deal with 3 eternal fierce corpses at most. Lin Sun could not help but frown slightly. Junior brother, be content. I've never dared to have any ideas about eternal corpses in the years I've been in the Tao burial ground. These ferocious creatures are even more terrifying than the Taoist spirits on Mount Diyu. Ling Xuanzi sighed. Lin Sun nodded. The two of them did not stay and continued forward. Compared to the blood-soul ferocious spirit, the number of eternal corpses on Mount Penglai was obviously much lesser. After sweeping through an area of nearly 10,000 kilometers, Lin Sun had only hunted 2 eternal corpses, and his physical strength had been severely exhausted. Helpless, they could only leave for now and return to the cave abode in the canyon to recover their strength. Half a month later, Lin Sun and Ling Xuanzi had only hunted 20 eternal corpses after sweeping through Mount Penglai once. In terms of quantity, it was far from being comparable to the blood-soul ferocious spirit. However, according to Ling Xuanzi, every eternal corpse meant that an eternal stage powerhouse had fallen in the Kunlun ruins in the previous era. On the other hand, refining an eternal corpse would allow one to obtain the eternal law that belonged to this eternal stage powerhouse. Although it was destined to be damaged, it was still extremely rare, and the eternal bloodstone could not compare to it. After sweeping through Mount Yingzhou and Mount Penglai, the 2 of them did not stop. After resting for a day, they charged towards Mount Square Pot. Mount Square Pot was only 9,000 kilometers wide, but it was extremely steep and lonely. It was filled with a kind of origin law called soul dissolving. The eternal fierce souls were distributed in this mountain. The so-called eternal fierce souls were formed from the soul power of the eternal stage powerhouses who had fallen in the previous era. The number of eternal fierce souls was extremely large, like a swarm of locusts, vast and mighty. This was because when an eternal stage powerhouse died, his soul had already exploded into powder, and these eternal fierce souls were only formed from the aura of the fallen primordial spirit. Their ferocity was far inferior to the blood-soul ferocious spirit, and far inferior to the great Tao ferocious corpse. The only thing that was feared was perhaps their large number. However, this was not a problem for Lin Sun. With the Gate of Exile, hunting these undying vile souls was no different from catching a shoal of fish with a large net. In just 7 days, the eternal fierce souls on Mount Square Pot were swept clean. After that, Lin Sun and Ling Xuanzi did not stop and began to target the great Tao monsters on Mount Daiyu and the eternal fierce weapons on Mount Yuanjiao. The origin law of Mount Daiyu was called Tao Transformation, and it was extremely terrifying. It could quantify the cultivation power of all cultivators in the world. The great Tao monsters distributed on Mount Daiyu were formed from the cultivation power of the eternal realm. Their combat strength was not inferior to the eternal fierce corpse at all. Moreover, although they did not have spiritual intelligence, they had the instinct to fight. They had a lot of fighting methods and were even more difficult to deal with than the eternal fierce corpse. Lin Sun and Ling Xuanzi spent an entire month to hunt down the 18 monsters of the great Tao on Mount Daiyu. Mount Yuanjiao was covered in a kind of origin law called weapon dissolving. The mountain was like a huge cage, and it was filled with colorful and murderous eternal fierce weapons. All of these were the life Tao armaments of the eternal realm experts of the last era. Even though they were extremely damaged, every single one of them had been tainted with the blood of their enemies and had accompanied their owners in battle for countless years. So, the aura of slaughter they emanated was capable of easily crushing any living being beneath the eternal realm. These eternal fierce weapons did not have spiritual intelligence, but they were filled with eternal ferocity and had different kinds of wonders. Some eternal fierce weapons could even hide in space and suddenly attack. They could be said to be extremely terrifying. When Lin Sun was dealing with them, he was almost in danger several times. Fortunately, he had the Gate of Exile. As long as he hid in the area covered by the Gate of Exile, no matter how magical those eternal murderous weapons were, they would be sucked into the Gate of Exile as soon as they got close. In the end, Lin Sun and Ling Xuanzi spent more than 20 days sweeping through Mount Yuanjiao and obtained a total of more than 40 eternal fierce weapons. Of course, they were all damaged. Chapter 3082. Sigh, that's it. When he returned from Yuanjiao Mountain, Ling Xuanzi couldn't help but feel a little dazed and unsatisfied. In total, it took nearly 3 months for him and Lin Sun to sweep through the 5 mountains of Yingzhou, Penglai, Fanghu, Daiyu, and Yuanjiao. The number of bloody souls, eternal corpses, eternal fierce souls, great Tao monsters, and eternal fierce weapons accumulated could be said to be spectacular. It could even be said to be unparalleled in the world, because such a great fortune could only be found in the land of burial of the Tao in the ultimate. To Ling Xuanzi, this was as surreal as a dream. In less than 3 months, he had already swept through all the fortuitous opportunities in the 5 divine mountains. This was something he had never imagined before. Ling Xuanzi only gradually calmed down when he returned to the cave residence. Then, he looked at Lin Sun with burning eyes and said, "Junior brother, with such a fortune, we brothers don't have to worry about not being able to achieve eternity." Lin Sun was also overjoyed. He didn't expect that the shocking change in the ultimate this time would give him such a great fortune. Moreover, it was so smooth from beginning to end, and he didn't really encounter any fatal danger. "Senior brother, wait a moment. I'll go take a look at the Gate of Exile," Lin Sun said as he activated the Gate of Exile. "Hey, wait, let me go with you," Ling Xuanzi hurriedly said. During this period of time, he had already seen the power of Lin Sun's forbidden power. He had long been curious about what kind of place the Gate of Exile was like. Lin Sun was startled and said, "Then you have to follow me, or I'm afraid you'll encounter a great disaster." With that, he and Ling Xuanzi had already taken action, disappearing into the Gate of Exile in a flash. The realm of exile. In the dusky world, Ling Xuanzi's expression changed immediately. He felt a terrifying suppression and confinement force, causing him to fly into the distance uncontrollably. As soon as Lin Sun thought of it, the power of heaven and earth that imprisoned Ling Xuanzi disappeared. Ling Xuanzi was shocked and said, "Junior brother, what the hell is this place?" Lin Sun said, "The realm of exile. As for where exactly this place is, even I don't know." "You don't know either?" Ling Xuanzi was surprised. Lin Sun nodded. The banished world was very mysterious. Only by controlling the power of the banished gate could one open it and control it. However, Lin Sun still didn't know the origin of this world. Very soon, the two of them arrived at the world where the corpse-slaying divine disk was floating. In an instant, all sorts of dazzling treasures of the Great Path entered their field of vision. They saw that the area around the corpse-slaying disk was filled with all sorts of treasures. They were densely packed and dazzling. Ling Xuanzi gasped, his eyes filled with shock. Lin Sun was also amazed by this scene. Since sweeping through the Immortal Abode Mountain, all the ferocious beasts that Shao Chen had hunted had been sent to this banished realm. He had not seriously counted them yet. At this moment, when he saw so many treasure lights, he couldn't help but be dazzled. A moment later, just as Ling Xuanzi was about to make a move to collect it, his body shook abruptly as he was struck by the obliterating power of the corpse-slaying disk. If it wasn't for Lin Sun making a move in time, he would have almost been swept into the black and white disk. This is the power of the rule. Ling Xuanzi was stunned as he stared at the corpse-slaying disk. "Junior brother, this banished world of yours is too heaven-defying." His tone was filled with shock. He really couldn't imagine what kind of world it was to have such mysterious and unfathomable power of the rule. Moreover, in this world, Lin Sun could easily control and use all the power here. That was too unbelievable. Lin Sun didn't know how to explain it, so he couldn't be bothered to explain. He waved his sleeve. Whoosh! All sorts of treasures surged towards him like a tide, attracting Ling Xuanzi's attention. After counting, there were a total of 493 eternal bloodstones, 20 incomplete eternal laws, 18 eternal Tao stones, 3,400 eternal soul stones. Among them, the most precious was the eternal law. It was the power of the law condensed by an eternal realm expert. Although it was incomplete, it was comparable to an incomplete divine order. The eternal law that Lin Sun refined from the corpse fragments was only a small part of the law of an eternal realm expert. It was far from being comparable to the eternal law refined from the eternal fierce corpse. With these, it should be enough for me to completely refine the eternal law to the extreme, right? Lin Sun thought to himself. Junior brother, look. This eternal Tao stone is formed from the cultivation of an eternal stage cultivator, and the power contained within it is incomparably surging and robust. Think about it, how enormous would the cultivation power possessed by an eternal stage cultivator be? Yet now, it's all gathered within this tiny eternal Tao stone. Ling Xuanzi, who was standing on the side, held a palm-sized, translucent eternal Tao stone that was filled with chaotic aura and quickly introduced it to Lin Sun. It's not an exaggeration to say that refining an eternal Tao stone is equivalent to absorbing the cultivation power of an eternal realm expert. Although it's not all of it, it's enough for us to benefit endlessly. Although we're only in the transcendent realm now, we can also absorb power from this eternal Tao stone. This is also immeasurable for us in the eternal realm. As he spoke, Ling Xuanzi picked up an eternal soul stone that was the size of a pigeon egg and had an illusory luster. His eyes were shining. This treasure is even more impressive. It's condensed from the soul power of an eternal realm expert. After stepping into the eternal realm, using this treasure to refine the eternal law is the most suitable. Lin Sun was also looking at these treasures. For example, the eternal bloodstone could refine the power of the blood spirit, which could be used to refine the eternal Tao body. That's not right. Where did those eternal murderous weapons go? Suddenly, Ling Xuanzi asked in confusion. He glanced around and didn't see any eternal murderous weapons. Senior brother, follow me. As Lin Sun spoke, he moved forward. Not long after, he brought Ling Xuanzi to the treasure-falling cliff. There were 45 types of eternal divine materials floating in the air. Every single one of them released great radiance, illuminating the world, extremely dazzling. These eternal divine materials were different from ordinary eternal murderous weapons. They were transformed from different eternal murderous weapons. One should know that each eternal murderous weapon was refined from countless rare eternal divine materials. They were nurtured and refined by eternal realm experts for countless years. Although these eternal murderous weapons had long been broken and their spirituality had dissipated, the eternal divine materials they transformed into could still be called treasures in the world. According to Ling Xuanzi, these 45 types of eternal divine materials could be regarded as 45 tool embryos for refining eternal Tao soldiers. Tool embryos were equivalent to the prototype of an immortal Tao soldier. Lin Sun waved his sleeve and kept these eternal divine materials. He was about to leave when Ling Xuanzi suddenly asked, Junior brother, what rule power is distributed in this treasure-falling cliff? Naturally, it's the treasure-falling rule. Any cultivator who is drawn into the door of exile will be obliterated by the corpse-killing disc, and their treasures will be collected by the treasure-falling cliff. Lin Sun explained patiently. Ling Xuanzi couldn't help but exclaim, the treasure-falling rule. There's actually such a strange rule power in this world. If I step into the eternal realm and refine this rule into my own eternal rule, wouldn't it be easy to take the enemy's treasures in battle? Lin Sun was stunned. Ling Xuanzi's words were like a blow to his head, making him realize one thing. Yes, when he stepped into the eternal realm, he could completely comprehend and refine the obliteration rule and treasure-falling rule of the exile world. Junior brother, are there other rule powers in this exile world? Ling Xuanzi asked. Yes. Lin Sun's heart moved, and he took Ling Xuanzi and flew into the distance. Not long after, a white waterfall fell from the sky and came into view. The waterfall seemed to come from the 9 heavens, pouring down in a mighty manner. The white mist rolled, looking extremely spectacular in this gray world. The flow of time. A waterfall completely formed by the time law fell between the heavens and the earth. At this moment, Ling Xuanzi was completely stunned, and his eyes were filled with uncontrollable shock. Time. A supreme taboo great Tao had now turned into a waterfall, deducing a kind of rule power visible to the naked eye. If an eternal realm expert saw this, their jaws would probably drop. One must know that on the path of the Emperor realm, one might be able to comprehend the power of time, but that was only the tip of the iceberg, and it could only be comprehended in the heart. As for the immortal realm, they could comprehend and study the power of time, but it was still almost impossible to control it. Only the existences of the eternal realm could comprehend and control the power of time, but there were only a few who could truly fuse the time law into their own eternal rule. Junior brother, do you really not know the origin of this world? After a long time, Ling Xuanzi couldn't help but ask. A mysterious world with the power of obliteration, treasure-falling rule, and time law. This was simply incredible. This was no different from having 3 types of divine-level orders in one world. One must know that in the eternal God clan of the 9th heaven, there was only one divine-level order. Lin Sun shook his head. He understood 4th senior brother's surprise. When he first saw all this, he was also shocked, and he was also curious about where the banished realm was located. Ling Xuanzi was silent for a moment, and he couldn't help but sigh. After sweeping through so many opportunities and possessing the power of the 3 rules of this banished realm, if junior brother proves the eternal Tao, I'm afraid you can become a giant among the eternal realm experts. Eternal Tao stone, eternal divine material, eternal soul crystal, eternal blood stone, eternal rule. Which one of them wasn't a treasure that eternal realm experts dreamed of? And the 3 rules of the banished realm could be used to temper the eternal rule. Thinking about it, if Lin Sun proved the eternal Tao, he wouldn't have to worry about not being able to rise up. Lin Sun smiled and said, although there are many opportunities, it also depends on one's temperament. This is the root of the great Tao. Ling Xuanzi was startled, and he suddenly came to a realization. Junior brother was reminding him not to let these opportunities blind his state of mind. This warmed Ling Xuanzi's heart, and he said with a smile, don't worry, I won't repeat the mistakes of martial Uncle Kong Ju back then. 2 consecutive chapters were delivered. In total, there were already 8 chapters today. After the goldfish finished eating, it would continue to explode. Students who have monthly votes, hurry up and vote, it will be 0 after midnight. Chapter 3083. In the cave residence, Lin Sun and Ling Xuanzi walked out of the banished world. Lin Sun divided all the treasures he obtained into 2 and gave half to Ling Xuanzi. So many for me? Ling Xuanzi was surprised. Lin Sun smiled. You don't want it? Ling Xuanzi immediately put away the treasures and smiled. Who would think that there are too many treasures like this? After thinking for a while, he couldn't help but remind, Junior brother, don't you think that the banished world is a bit similar to the land of buried Tao? Lin Sun was stunned. The 5 origins laws of the sinkhole similarly refined cultivators, but they were divided into different methods. Some refined chi and blood, others refined bodies, souls, cultivation levels, and treasures. The same was true for the 2 rules of the Gate of Exile. The difference was that the obliteration rule refined the opponent completely and dissipated, while the treasure fall rule only restrained the treasures. But in any case, the banished world and the land of buried Tao were indeed very similar. Senior brother, have you seen something? Lin Sun couldn't help asking. Ling Xuanzi pondered. In my opinion, a place like the land of buried Tao can only exist in the 4 Tao ruins. Junior brother, do you think that the banished world is in one of the other 3 Tao ruins? Lin Sun was shocked and fell into deep thought. The devouring abyss talent came from the eternal coffin, and Chen Linkong once said that the eternal coffin should be called the eternal boat. The power of the great Tao that eternal Night Emperor mastered also came from the eternal boat. As for where the eternal boat came from, perhaps only eternal Night Emperor knew. But what was certain was that there was a mysterious star map hidden in the eternal boat that could lead to the gate of eternity. A long time ago, Luo Tongtian used this star map to go to the Gate of Eternity, but he was blocked and besieged by the power of the 10 immortal giants nearby. Of course, these clues seemed insignificant, but Lin Sun was keenly aware that to really uncover the secret of the banished world, he probably had to start with the treasure, the eternal boat. After all, the Gate of Exile was the 4th stage of the Devouring Abyss talent, and the Devouring Abyss talent came from the eternal boat. Now, the boat of eternity was with Xia Ji. "Senior brother, have you heard of the eternal boat?" Lin Sun asked. Ling Xuanzi shook his head. "No." Lin Sun said, "Well, I don't want to think about it. I will find out sooner or later." Ling Xuanzi smiled faintly. "Junior brother, do you want to stay here and prove your Tao for eternity with us?" Lin Sun muttered, "Let's talk about it after I refine those eternal laws." His goal in returning this time was to bring his friends and family back to eternal true world. He could not stay there for too long. After all, he was now a vice pavilion lord of Yuan cult, and he had a heavy responsibility on his shoulders. Ling Xuanzi said, "The changes in the sinkhole are destined to continue. In the future, the starry sky ancient path will only become more and more powerful. I think you can choose to come to the sinkhole to stay in the future." Lin Sun said with a smile, "Let's talk about it later." When Ling Xuanzi saw this, he didn't say anything else. In the following period of time, both Lin Sun and Ling Xuanzi focused on meditation and cultivation. Ling Xuanzi wanted to attain eternity. Lin Sun, on the other hand, wanted to refine his undying laws to an unprecedented level. Right now, he had in his hands 10 eternal rules refined by the eternal ferocious corpses, which were comparable to 10 incomplete God-level sequences. Lin Sun wanted to see how much of his immortal law he could refine before he could reach perfection. Time flew by. 1 month passed quickly. Lin Sun had already refined 4 eternal laws, and right when he intended to refine the 5th, he suddenly had a sudden surge of inspiration, and a strand of enlightenment arose in his heart. This was the limit of his undying law. In other words, after refining the 4 eternal laws, Lin Sun's immortal laws had finally reached an unprecedented peak. "It's finally complete," Lin Sun couldn't help sighing with emotion. Over the years, his edict of immortality had refined an uncountable amount of order power. The order power above earth rank and below 9th rank heaven rank that had been refined was incalculable. He had even refined dozens of heaven rank 9 heaven rank sequence. There were also 5 rare rank 9 heaven rank sequences. But even then, it was still unable to attain perfection. It was not until he entered the land of the buried path this time that he finally achieved perfection after refining 5 eternal laws that were comparable to incomplete God-level sequences. How could Lin Sun not be emotional? He was now certain that his undying law had far surpassed ordinary God-level sequences. There are still 6 eternal laws left. I have to keep them well. Such treasures are treasures that even eternal realm figures dream of. Lin Sun thought to himself. He got up from his meditation and looked at Ling Xuanzi, who was meditating not far away. He did not disturb him and walked straight out of the cave abode. A moment later, Lin Sun's figure appeared on Yingzhou Mountain. He stood there, activated his undying law, and meditated. The undying law was steaming like an abyss, flowing with mysterious light and shadow. As early as when Lin Sun entered the vast thousand battle domain, the Nirvana order had shown its marvelous power, which enabled Lin Sun to obtain the 2 powers of order from the last era, Little Immortal and Little Ming, in a forbidden area. Now, Lin Sun was trying to use his undying law to capture and imitate the mystery of the blood transformation law. The reason why he imitated instead of meditating was that his current cultivation was in the immortal realm, and he could not comprehend the power of the rule power that only eternal realm experts could. After a long time, Lin Sun's undying law was boiling. At the same time, a mysterious and obscure aura was firmly sealed in the undying law. It worked. Lin Sun was shocked, and a smile appeared on his lips. This mysterious and obscure aura was the original mystery of the blood transformation law that was imitated by the undying law. It was like a seed. As long as Lin Sun reached the eternal realm, he could awaken this seed with his own strength, so that it could take root, sprout, and grow into a complete blood transformation law power. This gain allowed Lin Sun to further confirm one thing. After fusing with the Order of Nirvana, his eternal law possessed many secrets of the Order of Nirvana, and it could copy and reshape any great Tao order and rule in the world. This was one of the most powerful mysteries of the Nirvana order. Next, Lin Sun went to the four mountains, Penglai, Fanghu, Daiyu, and Yuanjiao. When he left, he had already imitated the mystery of the body transformation law, soul transformation law, Tao transformation law, and weapon transformation law. In short, the complete mystery of the 5 sequences of the ultimate had been obtained by Lin Sun. Senior brother. Returning to the cave residence, Lin Sun thought about it and woke up Ling Xuanzi, who was meditating. Junior brother, are you planning to leave? Ling Xuanzi asked. Lin Sun nodded. Senior brother, do you have a premonition of when you can achieve eternal Tao? As soon as this question was mentioned, Ling Xuanzi sighed and said, It's difficult. If I don't have 35 years, I'm afraid I won't have the chance to achieve eternal Tao. During this period of time, he had been cultivating with the eternal Tao stone all the time, but in the end, he realized that it didn't play much role in achieving eternal Tao. At the end of the day, he was already an existence in the transcendent realm great perfection. He didn't lack any external objects at all. As long as there was an opportunity, he could achieve Tao transcendence. As far as I know, eldest senior brother didn't manage to wait for this opportunity, said Lin Sun. And according to eldest senior brother's deduction, before the era calamity arrives, there will be no more opportunities to achieve eternal Tao in the eternal true world. But this is the ultimate ruins, said Ling Xuanzi seriously. I know. Lin Sun nodded. But senior brother, have you ever thought that the ultimate ruins will also be affected by the era calamity? Ling Xuanzi was stunned, but Master said that there is an opportunity here that can help me achieve eternal Tao. Times have changed, and the situation has long changed, said Lin Sun. However, if senior brother can sense the opportunity to achieve Tao transcendence in the next period of time, that would naturally be the best. If you can't break through after a long time, you can't waste your time here. Ling Xuanzi nodded and said, All right. By the way, what about you, junior brother? If you return to the eternal true world this time, there will be no more opportunities to achieve eternal Tao in that place in the future. Lin Sun said casually, I won't hide it from you, senior brother. Ever since I've cultivated, every time I break through, I've sought for an opportunity on my own instead of waiting for it to come. Even if I can't break through in the eternal true world in the future, I can just imitate eldest senior brother and the others and head to the Kunlun ruins. Ling Xuanzi muttered, It's better to seek for an opportunity than to wait for an opportunity. One is passive while the other is active. Junior brother, you've enlightened me quite a bit. His eyes lit up, and he said with a smile, I know what I should try next. No matter if it works or not, I have to give it a try. Lin Sun cupped his hands slightly and said with a smile, Then I'll wish you success in proving your Tao in advance, senior brother. Ling Xuanzi laughed out loud and said, Do you want to have a drink before you leave? Of course. Lin Sun agreed readily and casually took out a jar of divine wine that he had kept for many years. Within the abode, the two of them drank with each other, chatted cheerfully, and enjoyed a harmonious atmosphere. It was also on the same day that Lin Sun left the land of buried Tao. He had already made an agreement with Ling Xuanzi to meet in the Kunlun ruins before the calamity of the era descended. This time, the exploration of the ultimate ruins lasted for more than 4 months. Not only did Lin Sun accidentally meet his 4th senior brother, but he also obtained many unexpected opportunities and treasures. Most importantly, His laws of eternity had finally reached perfection. If it were not for this trip to the ultimate ruins, Lin Sun would not have known that his immortal law was still so lacking. In short, this time, it could be said to be a series of gains. A day later, Lin Sun successfully returned to the secret core realm. He had already planned to leave with everyone. Although this shocking change in the ultimate ruins had caused the entire starry sky ancient path to transform, it was still far from the seventh heaven, where the Yuan sect was located. Perhaps the starry sky ancient path would become more and more powerful in the future, but Lin Sun could not wait that long. The secret core realm was the same as when Lin Sun left. Husband, Sister Xia Ji and I have already brought our parents back. As soon as Lin Sun arrived at the clan hall, Zhao Jingxian heard the news and came over. Xia Ji, Zhao Yuanji, and Ao Xintong were with her. Greetings, father-in-law and mother-in-law. Lin Sun hurriedly went forward to welcome them. Zhao Yuanji said with a smile, I've already heard from Jingxian about what happened in the eternal true world. I also know that the peace of the starry sky ancient path is because of you. Not bad at all. What's the point of saying this? It's not easy for our family to reunite after so many years. Ao Xintong smiled. By the way, where's Fan Er? Zhao Jingxian also looked at Lin Sun. Lin Sun hurriedly said, Fan Er is in seclusion. He will come out in about half a year. Next, he personally arranged the banquet and called Lin Zhong, Xian Shangchen, Lin Huayuan, and other senior figures to accompany him. The guests and the host enjoyed themselves. At the end of the banquet, Lin Sun talked about returning to the eternal true world. Everyone had already expected this day to come, so they were not surprised. On the same day, everyone took action and conveyed the news to the Yuan Sherdao sect, Lin family, Xian family, Jintian clan, and other forces. The 9th chapter was delivered. I can't do it anymore. I originally wanted to release 10 chapters, but I was too tired. My whole body was sore and even my brain felt stiff. No matter what, I'm still very satisfied that I released 9 chapters on the last day of September. The National Day holiday will begin tomorrow. I wish everyone a happy holiday. Tomorrow is also the first day of the month. For the sake of releasing 9 chapters today, don't forget to vote for the chosen one tomorrow. Bow and thank you. Chapter 3084. The next morning, Lin Sun came to the secret world of mind alone and stood in the void. Rise. Suddenly, he took a deep breath and raised his hands in the air. The whole secret world of mind trembled and then slowly floated up. As Lin Sun made a gesture, the secret world of mind began to shrink until it turned into a fist-sized ball of light and fell on Lin Sun's palm. This was the extreme use of the law of space. With Lin Sun's current cultivation, he could completely refine a big world if he had enough time. It was not difficult to refine the secret world of mind now. Putting away the secret world of mind, Lin Sun exhaled a long breath of turbid air and walked out of the ultimate. Xia Ji, Xian Juin, Jintian Xianwei and others were all in the secret world of mind. All he needed to do now was to leave with the secret world of mind. Outside the ultimate, within 1,000 miles of the sea area, there was no sign of a cultivator. However, there were many forces stationed thousands of miles away. Most of them were foreign forces from other starry sky planes. Among them, there were many immortal cultivators. As soon as Lin Sun walked out of the ultimate, he sensed these auras and could not help but frown. With his current cultivation, it was a piece of cake for him to destroy these foreign forces. However, this was no different from killing indiscriminately. Moreover, Lin Sun could see that these foreign forces were very obedient and did not dare to step out of the 1,000-mile radius of the ultimate. The fact that they could survive the power of order of Wushuang undoubtedly proved that these foreign forces did not do anything heartless during this period of time. Master. Suddenly, Wushuang's figure condensed out of thin air. Her clothes were as white as snow, and she was as pure as a young girl. She blinked her big watery eyes and said, Are you leaving? Lin Sun was surprised. Why? Are you worried that I will leave you here on the starry sky ancient road when I leave? Wu Shuang said obediently, I will listen to your arrangements. However, I also believe that you will not leave me here. Lin Sun couldn't help but smile. He rubbed Wu Shuang's little head and said, You've said everything. Do I dare to keep you here? Wu Shuang's eyes were sparkling. She smiled sweetly and said in a clear voice, Master dotes on Wu Shuang the most, but without Wu Shuang's order power, I'm afraid this starry sky ancient path would be in turmoil again. What should we do? As she spoke, her brows furrowed. Lin Sun stretched out his hand, and a purple gourd appeared. Let Z guard the starry sky ancient road. Z was the name he had given to the purple gourd. This purple gourd was also a rare rank 9 heaven rank sequence item, and its order spirit was the green divine sword in the gourd. Although it didn't transform into a human form like Wu Shuang, it was full of intelligence and could recognize Lin's orders. Whoosh! Lin Sun threw the purple gourd into the air, and a cyan sword as ethereal as the sky whizzed out, and then turned into a rainbow and rushed into the depths of the sky. All right, you can withdraw your power now, Lin Sun said. Wu Shuang nodded and waved her hand. Endless light rain began to gather in the sky, and then poured into her slender figure like a waterfall. After a while, Wu Shuang looked at the sky and asked, Master, don't you worry that Z will be taken away by others? Lin Sun said with a smile, Those under the eternal realm can't do anything to Z. What's more, if they were really in the eternal realm, how could they be in the mood to come to the starry sky ancient road when the calamity of the era is coming? Let's go, Lin Sun said, and his figure rose into the air. Wu Shuang turned into a white light and disappeared in the immortal law around Lin Sun. For her, Lin Sun's immortal law, which had refined 90% of the power of nirvana, was like a nest where she could be nourished by the power of nirvana. In the Shirwan Mountains, southwest border of Xiao Empire, Feiyun City. The city was bustling with noise and excitement, and the bustling crowd flowed in an endless stream. Ladies and gentlemen, Feiyun City has a long history. It's the starting point of Emperor Daoyuan's rise. When Emperor Daoyuan was young, he settled here for a period of time. But at that time, it was just a barren village, and the villagers made a living by planting spiritual fields. In the largest tea house in the city, a storyteller spoke with fervor and assurance, attracting many guests to stop and listen. Emperor Daoyuan. This was the most resounding name in the starry sky, and he had long been the object of admiration for hundreds of millions of people in the world. His past deeds were also the most attractive. The vicissitudes of life are just like that. Everything in those days can only exist in memory. In the crowd, Lin Sun sighed in his heart and turned away. None of the guests nearby noticed that the legend they admired the most had just brushed past them. Next, Lin Sun came to Donglin town. He and Xia Ji once stayed in this city for a period of time. It was also in this city that he and Xia Ji separated. Xia Ji went to the Dark Night Shrine, and he went to the Bloodthirsty camp. Unfortunately, when Lin Sun came to the site where the Bloodthirsty camp used to be, it had already changed into a place occupied by a sect. Next, Lin Sun's footprints appeared in the place where Mist City, the Forbidden City, the ancient Desolation Domain, the Great Wall of the Imperial Pass, trudging all the way, Lin Sun recalled. What he was walking on was the arduous and trekking road when he was young. But now, what he saw along the way had already become completely different from before. When he came to the starry ancient road, Lin Sun couldn't help but feel ripples in his heart. The past was the past after all, and the past was gone. This was the way of the Great Way. From the moment you stepped on it, there was no turning back. Z, the piece of the starry ancient road is in your hands. Lin Sun turned his head, glanced at the stars in the distance, and then turned away. On this day, Lin Sun, who was worshipped by the world as a god, left the starry ancient road. 10 years later. Yuan Sect, Eternal True World. Brother Fan, is Master still in closed-door training? Tang Jiang was dressed in a fiery red dress, and her skin was fair and delicate. She was like a charming and bright red cloud, graceful and charming. Yes. Lin Fan nodded. His temperament became more and more calm, and he was as handsome as the wind and the moon. Years ago, after his father returned to Yuan sect with the secret world of mind, he began closed-door training. 10 years had passed, and there was no sign of him coming out. Brother Fan, when will you achieve immortality? Tang Jiang blinked her big eyes, and her voice was sweet and sweet. There's no hurry, Lin Fan said casually. In the past, he made rapid breakthroughs in his cultivation, and everyone who saw him would be shocked. But now, after going through the world of samsara, his state of mind had also changed greatly, and he no longer pursued the speed of breakthroughs. Tang Jiang, I've decided to leave Yuan sect for a while, Lin Fan said suddenly. Where are you going? Tang Jiang asked. Lin Fan said casually, I'm going to walk around the world, have a look, travel the world, and train my mind. I'll go with you, Tang Jiang said without hesitation. Tang Jiang said without hesitation, Master once said that I only have a single flaw in my cultivation, and that is that I lack tempering. I can seize this opportunity to properly temper myself. Lin Fan said with a smile, You're currently training in the 9th summit. If you want to go out to train, you have to get permission from the Peak Master, Senior Mo Lanshan. Then I'll go ask the Peak Master. After saying that, Tang Jiang left excitedly. Lin Fan was stunned, and he could not help but sigh in his heart. How could he not see that Tang Jiang had feelings for him? He had met Tang Jiang when he came to Yuan sect 10 years ago, but after all these years, he only treated her as a younger sister in his heart. I'll have to inform Mother about this. After thinking about it for a while, Lin Fan turned around and left. Inside an antique palace, Zhao Jingxian was chatting with Luo Qingxuan. Mother, grandmother. Lin Fan walked into the hall and greeted them with a smile. Luo Qingxuan's eyes lit up and she said, Fan come and sit beside grandmother. 10 years ago, when Lin Sun brought Zhao Jingxian and her son back, Luo Qingxuan was extremely surprised. Before that, she did not expect that her son not only had a wife, but also had a child. Because of this, Luo Qingxuan even complained and scolded Lin Sun because Lin Sun did not tell her about this at all. Lin Fan sat beside Luo Qingxuan and said with a smile, Grandmother, why don't I see grandfather? Your grandfather is playing chess with your grandfather Zhong, Luo Qingxuan said with a smile. Luo Qingxuan said with a smile. The more she looked at her grandson, the more she liked him. Brat, you don't visit me for no reason. Tell me, why did you come this time? If I can promise you anything, Grandma will promise you. Zhao Jingxian, who was at the side, felt helpless. Her mother-in-law was good at everything, except for the fact that she spoiled Lin Fan so much. I plan to go outside the primordial realm to train, Lin Fan said softly. A focused glint appeared in Luo Qingxuan's eyes and she said, Fan you have to be careful about this. Right now, the eternal true world might seem to be peaceful and the world is at peace, but there are plenty of dangers lurking in the dark. If some of your father's enemies learn of your identity, they might bring disaster upon you and kill you. Lin Fan smiled bitterly and interrupted her, Grandmother, I know all of this. Don't worry, I won't expose my identity when I go out this time. Luo Qingxuan was still worried and she asked, Why do you insist on going out? For cultivation, Lin Fan said seriously. In the end, Luo Qingxuan agreed, but she made Lin Fan promise that he must bring some trump cards to protect his life when he left, and he could not go out for too long. Every once in a while, he had to send a message to report that he was safe. Lin Fan listened with a smile, then looked at Zhao Jingxian and said, Mother, do you agree? Zhao Jingxian said angrily, You've already convinced your grandmother, so how can I not agree? As she spoke, she took out a jade talisman and handed it to Lin Fan. This is an avatar of your father's will before he went into seclusion. Take it with you. Lin Fan took it with both hands and put it away. Zhao Jingxian seemed to remember something and said, "By the way, your senior brother Su Bai is also wandering in the eternal true world. If you go out to train this time, bring your senior brother back to the Yuan cult." "All right." Lin Fan agreed readily. On that day, Lin Fan and Tang Jiang left the primordial realm together. P.S. I wish our great motherland prosperity and happiness. I wish everyone a happy holiday, but don't worry, the goldfish will not go on holiday. The next day will be slightly later. Chapter 3085. Over the past 10 years, many changes had taken place in the Yuan sect. For example, batch after batch of the younger generation had risen, and many of the older generation had also broken through to the next realm. But the most dazzling one was still Lin Fan. As the son of Yuan Qing Pavilion Master Lin Sun, his every move was destined to be watched by countless people. This was an honor that was enough to make the world envious, but also a heavy burden. Lin Fan did not want to live under his father's halo, so he chose to go out and train. He also wanted to rely on his own strength to create a world of his own. 10 years. Ever since Lin Sun swept through the 8th heaven and overthrew the 10 immortal giants, there had been no more major events that could shock the world. The 9th heaven had cut off the connection with the 8th heaven. During the period when the calamity of the era was about to arrive, the eternal gods were destined to have no time to care about other things. After the last fiasco, the shaman cult and the Zen cult seemed to have disappeared without a trace, and there was no more movement. For all living beings in the world, everything seemed to have returned to the previous peace. But for the 4 ancestral halls and the eternal gods of the 9th heaven, this peace was destined to be temporary. As time passed, the calamity of the era that was destined to overturn the world was destined to arrive as scheduled. 10 years. Many dazzling newcomers emerged in the various heavens of the eternal true world. Each of them was famous in their own areas, and the world paid attention to them. However, the most dazzling ones were only a small group of people. And among this small group of people, Su Bai's name was impressively included. He came from the ancient path of stars, fought his way out of the great 1,000 battle realms, and rose in the first heaven of the eternal true world. In just a short 10 years, he had conquered all the major heavens and defeated many enemies of the same realm. His brilliant achievements, forged with blood, shocked the world. Countless immortal emperor clans tried to take him under their command, and countless forces hated him to the bone, seeing him as a thorn in their side. But no one knew that the master of this young man, who had risen to power in the past 10 years, was the current Yuan sect's Yuan Qing Pavilion Master, Lin Sun. There were billions of living beings in this world, and there were many monsters and countless geniuses. It was destined that Su Bai would not be able to stand out alone. He still had a long way to go. It's been 10 years. Why is Lin Sun still in seclusion? Hasn't his cultivation reached the peak long ago? Du Guyong asked casually in the Origin sect's sky pavilion. Fang Daoping, Yuan Wutian, and other old monsters of the Yuan sect were also present. Perhaps he is cultivating some kind of secret technique. Xian Failing drank a cup of wine. In this world, it's impossible for the opportunity to attain Tao eternity to appear again. His closed-door meditation this time is definitely not for the sake of breaking through the realm. Sigh, time is not with me. Fang Daoping sighed. An era's calamity had completely eliminated the opportunity to attain eternity. This was undoubtedly bad news for these elders who had been immersed in the transcendent realm great perfection cultivation for many years. There are only 900 years left until the disaster of the Aeon descends. At that time, eternal true world, great 1,000 battles realm, and great 1,000 worlds are bound to perish. All the lives in the world might not even know that no matter how long they live, they will only have 900 years left, Du Guyong said in a low voice. It can't be helped. This is the general trend. In the past, the end of an era has occurred countless times, destroying one civilization after another. In the end, only an extremely small number of civilizations were able to survive the end of an era. Xian Feiling drank another cup of wine. Let's not talk about other things. Even our Yuan sect doesn't have much confidence in surviving the calamity of an era. Doesn't it mean that those who have not attained Tao eternity can resist the calamity of an era just because they have a divine level order? Du Guyong asked. 4 cultivators below the eternal realm, they would be attacked by the 5 decay Tao calamity during the end of an era. However, if they had the protection of a divine level order, they would have great confidence in resisting the 5 decay Tao calamity. Xian Feiling explained patiently. The divine level order can indeed resist most of the 5 decay Tao calamity's power. However, whether or not they can survive the calamity depends on each cultivator's own luck. For example, our Yuan sect still has the protection of a divine level order, but we still have to face such a huge risk. For all the lives in the world, how are they supposed to resist this calamity? Fang Daoping could not help but sigh. When the nest is overturned, no egg can escape unscathed. When they thought about how the entire civilization and the countless living beings that resided in the world would suffer during the calamity of an era, the hearts of these old fellows became extremely heavy. That's not necessarily the case. Do all of you still remember the ruins of creation? Xian Feiling spoke abruptly. In the past, the civilizations that encountered the calamity of an era would appear in the ruins of creation. In other words, when our era encounters a calamity, it's very likely that they will appear in the ruins of creation. The ruins of creation was like an enormous mother's nest, and over 100 civilizations were scattered within it. All of them had suffered calamity during the calamity of an era. However, the ruins of creation protected the descendants of these civilizations. It was like a seed that was preserved within the ruins, and it allowed the civilizations of the past to survive in the ruins of creation. Du Guyong said, but the ruins of creation has already turned into a prison. The civilizations that were scattered within it are destined to never be able to leave the ruins of creation. Fang Daoping said as well, that's right. Unless the culprit that's pulling the strings behind the scenes can be defeated one day, otherwise, the ruins of creation is bound to remain a cage. It won't just trap the civilizations from those eras, the living beings within those civilizations as well. For these old fellows, they naturally had some understanding of the situation in the ruins of creation. They're just trapped. As long as they survive, they'll break out of the prison sooner or later. Xian Feiling said with a smile. Du Guyong said in a deep voice, Brother Xian, don't be too optimistic. The immortal martial civilization of the previous era was so powerful and prosperous, but it was destroyed by the calamity of an era. It said that even their origin energy was shattered, and they didn't have a chance to appear in the ruins of creation. The destruction of the immortal martial era was too complete. As far as these old fellows knew, there was no other civilization that appeared in the ruins of creation. After hearing this, Xian Feiling couldn't help but sigh softly. He waved his hand and said, even those in the eternal realm can't do anything about these things. Let's not talk about it. At this moment, Taoling, the elder of Sky Origin Pavilion, suddenly came and presented a jade slip. Pavilion Masters and Deputy Pavilion Masters, this is the jade slip that Pavilion Master Lin asked me to bring. Xian Feiling was stunned. He took the jade slip and looked at it. His pupils suddenly shrank. How is it possible? How is it possible? Let me have a look. Du Guyong grabbed the jade slip and looked it up and down. He was also stunned at once. He and Xian Feiling's reaction was a little out of control, but the other old monsters were intrigued. They couldn't help but take the jade slips one by one out of curiosity. Then, they were all stunned and their hearts were in turmoil. After a while, Xian Feiling broke the silence first and said, What do you think? It should be true. Fang Daoping took a deep breath, as if to suppress the shock in his heart. Lin Sun would never joke about such things. It must be true. Du Guyong's eyes were shining. This kind of thing may be able to trap us, but it certainly can't trap an existence like him who has the immortal supreme path. Don't forget, the founder of the spirit sect, Su Yin, said that Lin Sun's path has even threatened the mastermind behind the calamity of the era. Yuan Wuqian said excitedly, so, in 3 months we will be able to witness an unprecedented miracle. Xian Feiling said in a deep voice, we will know when the time comes. During this period we have to help him keep this secret. If the news is leaked, I am afraid it will attract the attention of the witch sect, Zen sect, and the eternal gods of the ninth heaven. Everyone nodded in agreement. Even at this moment, their hearts still couldn't calm down. Because there was only one sentence on the jade slip. 3 months later, this junior will attain the eternal Tao. Seniors, please be prepared in advance. Proving the eternal Tao. Now, everyone knows that in the period before the calamity of the era, there will be no opportunity to prove the eternal Tao. But Lin Sun said that he will prove the eternal Tao in 3 months. This was the reason why Xian Feiling and other old monsters were shocked. If Lin Sun really wants to prove the eternal Tao, the eternal tribulation he will cause will inevitably affect the power of the divine order of our sect. Don't forget how terrible the tribulation was when pavilion leader Yu Beihai proved the eternal Tao. Du Guyong said solemnly, so we must prepare in advance. I believe this is the intention of Lin Sun to convey this news to us. Fang Daoping said with a serious expression, the movement caused by the eternal Great Tribulation is too big. Once it appears, it will definitely attract the attention of the Magus religion, Zen religion, and the eternal god race of the ninth heaven. Under such circumstances, once they attack, it will be a disaster. Xian Feiling said, now, those eternal realm figures have to be on guard against the coming of the great silence lifeless tribulation. Under such circumstances, I am afraid they will not dare to act rashly. After a pause he continued, of course we also have to be prepared. In case there are really eternal realm figures who want to stop Lin Sun from proving the eternal Tao at the cost of their lives, we have to think of a way to deal with it. But there are no eternal realm figures in our sect now, Du Guyong sighed. His words caused the hearts of the others to become heavy. After a while, Xian Feiling gritted his teeth and made a decision, do your best and leave the rest to God. I don't believe that such a big Yuan sect can be destroyed by the enemy. The other old monsters nodded, and there was a fierce look on their faces. When pavilion leader Yu Beihai proved the eternal Tao, he caused a great tribulation and attracted many enemies to invade, but in the end, he was saved. This time, Lin Sun would prove the eternal Tao in 3 months. These old guys didn't believe that they couldn't protect Lin Sun this time. At the same time, in a cave residence in Yuan Qing Mountain, Lin Sun was eating with Xie Ji, chatting while eating. He was so relaxed as if nothing had happened. On the first day of the month, he asked for a guaranteed monthly ticket. Chapter 3086. During these 10 years, Lin Sun never went out, and Xie Ji was always with him. 3 months later, I will prove the eternal Tao. Lin Sun put down the chopsticks in his hand and looked at Xie Ji opposite him. At that time, you and Jing Xian will stay in the Yuan realm. Why can't I protect you? Xie Ji wondered. Lin Sun smiled and said, I don't need anyone to protect me. Just listen to me. Xie Ji didn't insist and continued to eat. Lin Sun took out a pot of wine and drank it. He only did one thing during these 10 years of closed-door training, sharpening his state of mind. All his previous experiences and battles were sorted out by him one by one. He didn't deliberately suppress his inner emotions. He just quietly experienced everything from childhood to adulthood, from the beginning of cultivation to the present. 10 years had passed, but there wasn't much insight or gain. But Lin Sun knew that his state of mind was flawless. Inexplicably, Lin Sun thought of a saying, Sharpen the heart like a sword, nourish the heart like a jade. The predecessor with supreme attainments in swordsmanship revealed all the mysteries of the state of mind with just 8 words. He couldn't help sighing with emotion. It was also at this time that he deeply understood what it meant to have a heart like a sword and a heart like a jade. This was an extremely broad-minded and perfect state of mind. When it was open, it was like a sword in the sky, and when it was reserved, it was like a warm and beautiful jade. Lin Sun, why do you wait 3 months to prove the eternal Tao? Xia Ji suddenly asked. Lin Sun smiled and said, because there is still one thing to do. What is it? Lin Sun's dark eyes were deep and he said slowly, to draw out the opportunity that belongs to me. What are you going to do? Xia Ji was curious. Lin Sun thought for a moment and said, use myself as bait to fish for the secret of heaven. As he said, he pointed to the sky casually, others wait for the opportunity, but I need to seek the opportunity, which is above the heavens. Xia Ji was stunned and shook her head. I don't understand. Lin Sun smiled and said, it doesn't matter if you don't understand. Time flew by day after day. 3 months passed quickly. Lin Sun and Xia Ji walked out of the cave residence. Where did everyone go? Lin Sun was stunned. In his spiritual awareness, he found that the whole Yuan Qing mountain was empty. Except for him and Xia Ji, there was no one else. Let's go and take a look at Primary Sky Mountain. Lin Sun immediately moved through the void and flew away. Soon, he found Xian Failing, Fong Daoping, and the other old monsters at Prime Sky Mountain. Brat, you've finally come out. When Xian Failing and others saw Lin Sun, they all came up to him and asked, how's the preparation? How confident are you in attaining eternity this time? Lin Sun said with a smile, we'll know when we pass the test. By the way, where are the others in our sect? Xian Failing said, we've settled them in the Tian Yuan Mystery Land half a month ago. Now we're the only ones left in the Yuan clan. Lin Sun was stunned and suddenly realized that he had overlooked one thing. He didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Seniors, I'm not going to prove my Tao in Yuan realm this time. Xian Failing and the others were stunned and caught off guard. Previously, they all thought that Lin Sun wanted to prove eternity in Yuan realm and was worried that the power of the divine level order would be suppressed. That was why he took action in advance and settled everyone in Tian Yuan Mystery Land. Tian Yuan Mystery Land had the source of power of the divine level order. Even if the enemy came knocking, it wouldn't be easy to destroy the source of the divine level order. But who would have thought that Lin Sun didn't want to prove his Tao in Yuan realm? Where are you going to prove eternity? Fong Daoping couldn't help but ask. I think the infinite star sea will do, Lin Sun said casually. When the time comes, we just need to withdraw the power of the order of the infinite star sea back to Yuan realm. This was his plan. When Yu Beihai was proving eternity, the divine level order of the Yuan realm was suppressed when the eternal tribulation befell and couldn't exert its power. Lin Sun didn't want everyone in Yuan clan to lose their protection because of his test. No. Xian Failing was the first to disagree. Proving the way to eternity is a big deal. If you were in the infinite star sea, once a foreign enemy came to invade, they would definitely interfere with your tribulation. You can imagine how serious the consequences would be once your state of mind is disturbed. The other old monsters also tried to dissuade him. But Lin Sun shook his head and said firmly, in this world, the only thing that can affect my state of mind is the safety of you and everyone in Yuan clan. As long as you are safe, I will have nothing to worry about. Xian Failing and the others looked uncertain. Do you know that when the eternal tribulation befalls, the sorcerer cult, Zen cult, and even the eternal god clan in the 9th heaven will notice it immediately? If they send people of the eternal realm to stop it at all costs, it will be a big disaster. Fong Daoping said seriously. Because of this, as long as you hide in Yuan realm and have the protection of the divine level order, you won't be threatened by such a disaster. Lin Sun said without hesitation. As for me, even if I am an eternal realm existence, would I dare to make a move during the eternal tribulation? Seeing that they couldn't dissuade Lin Sun, Xian Feiling and the others could only agree. Lin Sun also breathed a sigh of relief. He was really afraid that he couldn't persuade these old monsters. On the same day, he left Yuan Realm alone and came to the Infinite Star Sea. It was still the peak of the holy city of infinite desolation. Lin Sun stood there casually, his moon-white clothes fluttering in the clouds. In the distance was the magnificent infinite star sea, with dreamlike starlight sprinkling down. Back then, when Yu Beihai proved his Tao to be eternal, Lin Sun guarded this place alone. And today, he was still alone here, but this time, he was going to face the eternal tribulation himself. Gulp gulp, Lin Sun took out the wine gourd and drank to his heart's content. Then, his eyes were like lightning as he suddenly looked into the depths of the sky. His tall figure suddenly released a shocking and unparalleled aura, like a divine sword that had been sealed for countless years. At this moment it pierced the sky, pierced through the clouds, and went beyond the sky. At this moment, his cultivation was also released to the extreme. Boom! The nearby sea suddenly surged. Waves rose and roared like dragons. Between heaven and earth, a rain of light of the great Tao poured down. It was like a great furnace that wanted to smelt the heavens at this moment. Behind Lin Sun, the divine ring of immortality surged like a cryptic abyss. The surging power of the laws of immortality caused the power of the laws of heaven and earth to tremble and wail as if it was being suppressed. Primordial realm. Xian Feiling and the others witnessed this scene clearly through the power of the God rank order, and they could not help but be dumbfounded. His immortal laws were powerful enough to cause the laws of heaven and earth to become unstable? This completely subverted their imaginations, because in their understanding, only the power of an eternal realm existence could achieve this. What was most incredible was that in the following time, Lin Xuanzhou his aura continued to rise and rise, boom. In the vast infinite star sea, heaven and earth seemed to be boiling, and the power of rules rumbled. Hundreds of millions of light showered from Lin Sun's tall figure, dazzling and boundless. His aura pierced the sky like a sword and rushed to the depths of the sky, giving people the feeling that he was fighting and killing a great enemy outside the sky. This situation continued for the next period of time. But until 2 hours passed, the eternal tribulation that Xian Feiling and the others expected did not come. Could it be that in the period before the era tribulation, the aura of the eternal realm really can't appear again? Xian Feiling and the others were stunned and could not calm down. But Lin Sun seemed to be unaware of it. He wantonly released his power, cultivation, body, divine soul, great Tao, state of mind without any reservation. He used himself as bait to fish for the mysteries of heaven. It was only a matter of time that the fish was destined to be in the future. For Lin Sun, these things could no longer affect his state of mind. It was just like the 8 words left by the Supreme Existence: sharpen the heart like a blade, nourish the heart like a jade. 6 hours later, suddenly, an oppressive aura of the tribulation appeared silently in the depths of the sky, and gradually lingered into a shadow. Then, the world suddenly dimmed, as if it had fallen into the darkness of the eternal night in an instant. The originally boiling and chaotic power of heaven and earth suddenly fell into a strange silence at this moment, which made one's hair stand on end. The boiling and tumbling sea, the void that was surging with violent power, seemed to be imprisoned by an invisible hand. The whole world seemed to be still at this moment. It's coming. In the Yuan sect, Xian Feiling and the other old monsters, who had been waiting anxiously, also trembled at this moment, and their pupils dilated. The opportunity to prove the eternal realm had arrived, and the terrifying power of the tribulation was condensing in the depths of the sky. Xian Feiling and the others couldn't describe their feelings at this moment. They were nervous and depressed, but also indescribable excitement and expectation. The eternal tribulation was an unprecedented tribulation that was enough to make any transcendent realm great perfection in the world love and hate. Crossing it, one could set foot on the eternal path, and stand at the highest point of time, looking down at the heavens, and controlling the power of heaven and earth. But if one couldn't cross it, one's soul would be destroyed, and one's body would perish. For Xian failing and the others, they naturally knew the horror of the eternal tribulation, so they were so nervous and depressed at this time. What made them excited was that the opportunity of Lin Sun to prove the eternal tribulation had really appeared. The opportunity of proving the eternal realm, which was regarded as impossible to appear, was forcibly sought by Lin Sun, which was equivalent to breaking some kind of taboo shackles. Finally, I've taken the bait. A smile appeared on Lin Sun's lips. His aura was suddenly restrained in his body, like an incomparably sharp sword in its sheath, becoming restrained and indifferent. He took out the wine gourd and drank again. In the depths of the sky, the eternal tribulation was accumulating, and it would not take long for it to really break out. But for Lin Sun, he had already succeeded half of the way to attract this tribulation. The world was gloomy, and the rolling tribulation clouds spread quietly, covering the sky of the infinite star sea. The heavy iron curtain that blocked the light was coming. The oppressive aura of the tribulation that was enough to make all living beings in the world desperate began to spread, and everything was changing silently. Only Lin Sun was calm as usual, drinking alone between heaven and earth. Chapter 3087. The Zen World. The land where the Zen ancestral court was located was also known as the Radiant Buddhist Land. Since the founder of the Zen sect, Shi, opened the mountain gate here, no matter how the world changed, the Zen sect had always been one of the 4 ancestral courts, existing forever. Brahma's secret realm, the current Buddha Jianan's secluded cultivation place. Jianan, who had been meditating in seclusion all these years, quietly opened his eyes. A hint of solemnity appeared between his brows. His heart throbbed as he sensed the aura belonging to the eternal calamity. How can there be an opportunity to prove the eternal Tao before the arrival of the era calamity? Jianan couldn't help but be stunned at this moment. At this moment, an old voice suddenly sounded, "Jianan, quickly come to my cave residence." Jianan's heart trembled. He immediately stood up and disappeared into thin air without a sound. In a cave residence with blooming 9-colored lotus, an old monk with a snow-white beard sat cross-legged on a futon. His skinny figure was hunched and thin. As soon as Jianan arrived, he bowed and said, "Greetings, martial uncle." This old monk with a snow-white beard was Fanon, who had the highest seniority in the Zen sect. He was the only disciple accepted by the founder of the Zen sect, Shi. When the Zen sect was first established, Fanon had already followed Shi to cultivate. You should have also sensed the aura of the eternal calamity just now, right? Fanon said with an old and low voice. Jianan nodded, yes. Fanon stood up from the cattail hassock and looked at Jiao Nan with his murky eyes. He said, when the founding master left, he left behind 3 items. They are the Mahayana Rui that controls the God-level order of our Zen sect, the Dharma form of the founding master's will, and a stone statue engraved with the word Tai Chu. He paused for a moment and continued. All those years ago, the primordial stone statue issued a decree, so it dispatched Ji Kong with the will and Dharma form left behind by the founding master to lead a group of experts of the sect and join forces with the shaman cult with the intention of capturing Lin Sun, the successor of the master of the core dimension. But in the end they failed. Jianan's expression turned gloomy. Back then, the Yuan school was completely defeated. Not only were Ji Kong and the other transcendent realm great perfection existences completely annihilated, but even the ancestral master's will, Buddha Jiaxu of the past, and Buddha Jiajin of the future had mysteriously disappeared. Fanon said in a low voice, "Now, the absolute beginning stone statue has sent out the second decree." "What? Jianan was startled. Don't tell me we're going to deal with the Yuan sect again? Fan An's cloudy eyes became unfathomable. No, it's to deal with Lin Sun. Lin Sun. Jianan's pupils narrowed as he suddenly realized something. The aura of the eternal calamity that appeared earlier wouldn't have been caused by this kid, right? Fan An sighed softly. Who else could it be if not him? Even I was shocked. I never imagined how he obtained that trace of critical factor to attain the Tao. Jianan was silent for a moment before he said, What did the primordium stone statue say? I could only sense a supreme will. There were no specific words or words. Fan An said in a low voice. The decree is very simple. Lin Sun triggered the eternal calamity and attracted the attention of that existence. He ordered us to go and kill him immediately. After a pause, Fan An continued, Moreover, the witchcraft cult and the eternal god clan of the ninth heaven will participate in this operation. Jianan said, This doesn't seem to be any different from the last time we attacked the Yuan sect. No, there is a difference. The Yuan sect no longer has an eternal realm expert. If Lin Sun chooses to go through the eternal calamity in the Yuan sect, the divine order of the Yuan sect is destined to lose all its power. Yes. Fan An's eyes were profound and cold. Moreover, you don't have to worry about encountering the great silence lifeless calamity this time. Even if you succeed, you don't have to worry about encountering this calamity in the future. Jianan was shocked. Did the absolute beginning stone statue say this personally? Fan An said, Personally? Not exactly, but I'm sure that this is the decree of that existence. Jianan took a deep breath and said, Uncle, what is the origin of that existence? Is he a human or an unimaginable rule power? Fan An shook his head. Perhaps only the patriarch knows a little about this matter. Jianan thought for a moment and said, All right, I'll do it. Set off now. If you rush at full speed, you can reach the Yuan sect in 20 hours. Fan An said. Jianan nodded and turned to leave. After watching Jianan's figure leave, Fan An sat on the futon again and took out a jade-like, pitch-black stone statue from his arms. The stone statue was obviously in the shape of a human. It was tall, but its face was blurred. It was hard to tell whether it was a man or a woman. At the bottom of the stone statue, the word, Absolute Beginning, was engraved. The decree from before came from the two words, Absolute Beginning. Yes, who are you? Fan An stared at the stone statue, lost in thought. The witchcraft cult. A mountain range of tens of thousands of meters shook violently. Then, a thin figure walked out of the mountain range step by step. As long as I am not threatened by the great silence lifeless calamity, I won't frown even if I have to destroy the Yuan sect, let alone kill Lin Sun. The thin figure's voice was cold. Looking closely, he was dressed in animal skin clothes. His exposed skin looked like it was made of bronze liquid. His dark cheeks seemed to be chiseled by a knife and axe. In the depths of his eyes, there was a horrible vision of bloody purgatory. Tan Wu, the Flamen. That's it. I'm leaving. Tan Wu said and suddenly stepped forward. A space-time vortex tunnel suddenly appeared in the void in front of him. As he stepped into it, he disappeared in an instant. The tribulation clouds were thick, like ink, smearing all the scenes between heaven and earth into the color of darkness. The oppressive breath of tribulation was like invisible magma, boiling and roaring in every inch of space. Those scenes made Xian Failing and the others, who were watching from the primordial realm, shudder with fear. This was the eternal tribulation. Even the old monsters who had lived for hundreds of thousands of years were frightened and fearful when they talked about it. At this time, Lin Sun stood alone in the void, with his clothes fluttering in the wind. He looked aloof. It had been 2 hours since the breath of this catastrophe appeared, but there was still no sign of it breaking out. It seemed to be constantly accumulating power. The depths of the sky had long been submerged by the black torrent of tribulation. Lin Sun was not anxious, nor was he afraid. His state of mind was empty and clear, neither sad nor happy, calm and composed. He stared at the depths of the sky, as if he wanted to see through all the secrets in it. Time passed little by little. Suddenly, there was a tumble in the depths of the tribulation clouds. Suddenly, a dazzling tribulation light appeared, like a sharp long sword, tearing the tribulation clouds and illuminating the world that was submerged in darkness. Boom! This tribulation light was inconspicuous at first, but when it swept out of the thick tribulation clouds, it turned into tribulation lightning all over the sky, like a group of dancing snakes, descending with overwhelming momentum. "It's coming!" Xian Feiling and others held their breath. "It's finally coming," Lin Sun revealed a wisp of a smile instead, and he didn't dodge at all. When the bolts of tribulation lightning that covered the sky arrived before him, a myriad of strands of light suddenly surged out from his body, and they transformed into a furnace that glowed brilliantly in space. Boom! The sky fell and the earth cracked. The dazzling and blazing tribulation lightning surged, and the energy contained within it was so terrifying that it seemed as if this expanse of the heavens and the earth was on the verge of being obliterated. But as the furnace formed from Lin Sun's eternal laws rumbled and revolved, the tribulation lightning that covered the heavens and the earth were suppressed into the furnace. The Tao furnace suppressed the tribulation light. Subsequently, the destructive energy of the tribulation lightning was refined and obliterated, and only the pure and abundant vitality remained. It was completely absorbed by Lin Sun's Taoist body without leaving a single drop behind. Moreover, he was completely unharmed. When looked at from afar, it seemed as if he regarded the eternal tribulation as a delicacy, and he was swallowing and refining it. The shocking scene caused Xian Feiling and the others to stare blankly. No matter how they racked their brains, they'd never imagined that Lin Sun would actually overcome the tribulation in such a way. Swallowing tribulation lightning? This was too heaven-defying. Is this the vitality of the grand Tao contained within the tribulation lightning? Lin Sun experienced the vitality of the tribulation lightning contained within every inch of his skin, and his entire body had a wonderful feeling. It was as if he was absorbing nourishment that was sufficient to allow him to realize the ultimate transformation. Bang! Before he could further appreciate it, there was another dull thunder in the depths of the thick tribulation cloud, shaking the 9 heavens and all directions. Just the sound was full of heavenly power, which could make immortals tremble in fear. Immediately afterward, tribulation light tore the tribulation cloud, like violent divine chains of rules emerging densely, crystal and bright. These tribulation lights were indeed very beautiful and magnificent, but they were also unimaginably terrifying. As soon as they appeared, they turned into spears full of judgment and killing power, stabbing at Lin Sun in the void. Clang! The furnace formed by the eternal laws around Lin Sun was hit by a tribulation light spear, causing an earth-shattering collision sound, and the furnace shook for a while. Immediately afterward, the spears bombarded the furnace intensively, and the destructive power smashed the furnace and made it explode. Xian Feiling and the others were shocked. However, in the next moment, the destroyed cauldron collapsed into a deep and obscure abyss, and then it suddenly expanded countless times before it suddenly swallowed the sky. Bang! The dense tribulation lights like spears of judgment were all swallowed by the abyss in the roar and disappeared without a trace. Lin Sun just let out a muffled groan, took a deep breath, and ran his cultivation with all his strength. The power of the eternal laws, which had turned into the abyss, kept roaring, and refined the tribulation light spears trapped in it. Isn't this guy too abnormal? When pavilion leader Yu Beihai tried to prove his Tao, he was so embarrassed and tragic. But looking at Lin Sun, there's no comparison at all. His eternal laws are so powerful that they can shake the rules of heaven and earth, and also crush the power of the eternal tribulation. Xian Feiling and the others saw this scene, and they were all shocked, and their expressions became slightly absent-minded. It's just the beginning, But the tribulation is already so powerful. I'm afraid it will become more and more terrible. Du Guyong frowned. He had witnessed the scene of Yu Beihai proving his Tao, and he could clearly feel that the power of the eternal tribulation Lin Sun was going through was far greater than that of the eternal tribulation Yu Beihai had faced at that time. Everyone couldn't help but be shocked.